Opinions expressed by the participants in the following program do not necessarily represent that of this station or its management.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Please join us now in the singing of America the Beautiful.
Good day, ladies, gentlemen, and children of all ages. This is Rich Lang, once again welcoming you to yet another monthly session of our special roundtable panel discussion, Meet the Chicago Historians. We are recording on October 20th, 2014. Our show comes to you pre-recorded from the John DeVita Recording Studio, right here on Chicago's great northwest side. Now, here's that guy himself, our producer, John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Rich. From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, October the 20th, the year 2014. Today's panel will be talking about our military and all of its branches, and, of course, much more. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Rich Lang.
Now here's our panel moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
Hello and welcome. Well, we didn't open up with any Chicago. Do you want to still do a little bit of that, John, just to make it official or what?
Nah, go ahead.
Okay. Then we can kill some more time.
No, that America the Beautiful is probably better as a national anthem we have right now for a couple of reasons. One, that supposedly the Star Spangled Banner the music was derived from an English drinking song.
So I've heard, yeah.
My Country 'Tis of Thee is...
God Save the King or whatever?
Yeah, one of those,
Yeah.
God Save Somebody or Other. And this probably is all original. So it would be much better, and also describes the United States much better.
Well, it was from the poem, The Bombardment of Fort McHenry.
Right.
There's like 4 or 5 stanzas to it.
Yeah.
And I heard that was a drinking song. I did hear some recording of it, which wasn't the Star Spangled Banner a long time ago as a kid. But
Any song could be a drinking song, but it's still the Star Spangled Banner,
Yeah, but I think
and the one that should be, honored by everyone in the United States of America.
I'm not saying I'm not dishonoring it. I should
You
say
know,
I, like
I
that
see
one
some
better.
of these kids that don't take history, and they don't know what to do when it plays, and it's pretty damn sad.
Well,
you
you
know?
look out there and
Pretty sad.
look at the athletic field too with the players there. They don't know what they're doing either.
That's
Well,
ironic.
Most of them aren't from this country.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's also true.
that is ironic. You brought that up, Bill. I read an article where the photographers within the idea of a very good ceremony or a ball game or whatever are not scanning the crowd as much, because while these kind of very, patriotic things are going on, they're on their phones.
Yeah.
They're nudging each other.
their
they're-
iPhones
yeah,
playing games and-
the
yeah.
respect
Right.
is certainly
they-
gone.
Right.
You know, it's you talk about young people today. Respect is something that I think you learn about, and then you earn the respect from other people. But if you don't respect yourself, it's very difficult to respect anything else. Patriotism is something that you grow up with. You learn from your parents, your elders. You learn from people around you. I remember when John McCain ran for president, when the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, endorsed John McCain, they said one of the reasons is that here's a man that knows what in the line of duty means. And there's so many people, especially young people now, that it's a joke.
Tom, I just spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the Wounded Warriors that came in from the East Coast. There were 12 of them. One guy had no legs and only one arm. He's in a wheelchair. Another guy with prosthetics, and they all had. One guy, no legs but prosthetics, and it was quite a moving 3 days.
Right,
And especially for this guy, an 80-year-old man ain't gonna start. I don't care if they're in wheelchairs or not. They wore me out. But you know what? We went to the Hawks game, and Bush signed the law that anybody that was in the military during the national anthem should salute,
right.
whether you're in uniform or not.
Right.
And I turned around and I looked at part of the crowd.
Nothing.
I know they were there, and that I felt
Didn't
goofy.
even know it.
I'm the only guy. Yeah.
Right, I mean, it's sad. It's tragic. I mean, from the person that occupies the White House right now, the disrespect that he has for the military, and if you really want to judge someone, look at his background. Look at who he hung around with. I mean, why in the name of God would someone like him have any interest or any respect for the military when he has shown in his entire life nothing but disdain, nothing. The coffee cup salute, is a prime example. But the thing is, if you don't know and you don't care, it's meaningless to you, and that's the sad part about it. A lot of young people, well, maybe not just young people, a lot of people, when they saw the coffee cup salute, said, well, so what? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Because it isn't a big deal to them, but members of the military, it is a big deal. I mean, one of the saddest statistics in this day and age is the suicide rate of members of the military. I mean, it's a for that demographic. I think it's astronomical, and I think one of the reasons is that people just don't appreciate it. And from the president of the United States on down.
Bill Clinton, to his credit, when Clinton became president, he had never served in the armed forces, and he didn't know how to salute. And the first couple of times he did it as president, he didn't do it very well. And so he had the military. He had an officer teach him how to salute because he wanted to do it the proper way. But that incident you talk about with the coffee cup, I mean, Obama's been president for 6 years and he still doesn't know the rules.
Well, that's
I
like,
love it yesterday when they heckled him in Maryland and walked out on him.
Well,
Who did
well,
that?
how about our
he was at a fundraiser, naturally.
How about the attitude of our future president and her attitude about the military? When they were first in office, she didn't want the military to wear the members that were serving in the White House. She didn't want them to wear their uniforms.
Right.
No, she wanted servants.
Right.
They had them catering parties and walking around to the military, delivering
I know
pizzas in
my
Haiti.
cousin's kid was with the Secret Service, and he was one of the people during the Clinton administration that now that he's out of it, he talks about it.
I wonder if
Nothing good.
I wonder if using a term for our country could be analyzed today if we had to have the draft without them getting the letter. You know how they ran down to the draft board and signed up and
Volunteered. They
You
enlisted.
exactly.
There were millions that
They
enlisted
have
before
to.
before the
Long
draft
before
arrived at them.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
My dad was one of them.
all right.
They
and I had
have to
family,
register
too.
for the draft
yeah.
when they're 18.
That I
you
know.
And I love it because Jesse White was the one that told me that he had it signed in there that they can take their driver's license away if they don't register for the draft.
Really?
But is
Yes,
that being
yes.
looked into? I've talked to youth
I don't know if they've ever
who
done
have
it.
said,
but
what?
If you got one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Got one to begin with, right?
There's a lot of illegals out
Yeah.
there that have driver's licenses, so they are supposed to register for a draft. How many do? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I talked to people who
How many
should have.
illegals got driver's licenses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They-
I don't know if
but
they're
supposed to-
correlating that.
If they're I guess these permanent citizens, whatever it is, they're supposed to register for the draft because they are eligible to be drafted. Now, if they don't register, but they got driver's license, they can take the driver's license away. But this would be anti-whatever.
Anti-something.
Yeah.
Well, my kid was born in when I was in the service in France, and until he was 21, he was a citizen of both, and he was registered for the draft over there and here.
Yeah.
And you know, if something happened, well, when he was 21, he had to sign the papers for France too.
And some
Say
make the
that
argument
he
that
was- he
women
had to
should be just as
choose.
susceptible to the draft as men.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
today that would
Yeah.
be a real
Yeah.
common reaction.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah,
where
sure.
before it was not a novelty, but it certainly was.
I don't know. I often I don't know if we're prepared to have every 18-year-old girl eligible for the draft. I don't know
Prepared?
that.
No, I'm just
I don't
saying,
think
I
people
think
have
we're-
thought through that.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
they
not
talk-
Israel. that's
John,
right.
all they
People-
got to do is registered. Nobody's saying that they're going to take
But
them.
do
Once
we
you're registered,
want
once
to?
you're registered,
Do
you know
we
you're.
want to?
What I'm
is
saying
what
is,
you're
if we
saying.
were to get into a major conflict, where we would have to a real full-scale war with a major power, I don't know if we've really thought through this idea of gender equality. That would mean that every 18-year-old girl would be eligible to be called for military service.
Mm-hmm.
They
We
would be-
tend to put that off, and we think, well, now it's
It'll never
volunteer.
happen,
Women who are
yeah.
in the military now are women who want to be there. But every guy knows that if there's a war, he's subject to being called and
Mm-hmm.
actually going into combat. I don't know if as a society we're prepared to have women called on an equal basis for men and send them into combat.
But those guys even may not be eligible
Not
once
anymore.
they
The
get
fa-
in. You know,
Yeah, but the
once
fa-
they
Why-
get
why-
in,
why-
you're eligible. But
what does that have to
but
do-
whether they're going to take them or not,
That's for
you know, yeah.
But John Wayne.
But you know what? This is all
being
equality
being
that
gay-
we're talking
But we
about.
live in a
Hey, being
society
gay
where
will
we're
get you
told
out.
that women are equal to men.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
anything a man can do, there's
Until-
no
Right.
difference.
They
and,
get the
and it's-
same pay.
And in terms of the military, it simply isn't true. It
Ah.
simply isn't true.
No, physically they can't. But the fact
Well,
is
then they
that
don't take them.
the fact is that women have been in the military since the Revolutionary War. They snuck in, but they were in the combat in a couple of cases anyway. You got Molly Pitcher.
Sure,
No,
you
you have
have the
examples.
individual. Yeah, there's no question about that.
These are very few examples. They
I
stand up
realize
because
they're
there are
very
so few
few,
of them.
but
But to understand what John is saying is, I'm the woman. There's 10 men and there's 10 women. and 8 of us women get disqualified, for our fears, our physical, our
Yeah,
mental,
yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And that isn't fair. That isn't fair. But we
To pretend that
We
it's
have
equal, when
not
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now they're
under-
talking about putting them in all these combat. They're talking about putting them in
Now
the
the-
infantry, the
that's
armor,
what I was gonna bring up.
SEALs, and Rangers, and everything.
yes.
And all of this is gender normed anyway. When you go into the service, I mean, a guy may have to do 50 push-ups, and a woman does 5, and they're both considered to have passed.
No, she's out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's not the way it is.
No,
Well,
there-
whether
there-
it
that's
is
not
or
the way
not,
it
that's
is.
the way it should be.
Yeah.
There are combat
But
women pilots out there.
Pilots, yes.
They are told what would happen to them if they got shot down in a hostile territory, this type of thing. So they know
And
some of
then
the
over a
risks,
country that doesn't have an equal rights amendment or
anything like that. They should know women. That's all.
I know we got a lot of women on the job that would do very well in the Army, in combat zones, and they do it. Some of them do it, some of them
and
don't.
then there is the woman who has, as we all know, more masculine reaction to life,
Yeah.
per se, the feminine woman, which I don't know what all of this means,
I-
but so that could be where that, group finally is found.
Yeah.
But on an overall, I don't think
And
so.
there's
I would-
jobs in there, just like in the police and fire.
Sure.
There's jobs in there that they can do to open that up for a guy to go out on the field.
Well, it's
I'll-
true. I
I'll
was
tell
gonna
you a
say.
funny story
Yeah.
about. I was at a couple of buddies of mine owned a bar, and I didn't know they sold the bar, and I went in there and I found out it was a lesbian hangout.
Oh yeah. How are things in Beirut?
Yeah. Anyways, one chubby whatever walked in there, and she could make way she talks. She could make a sailor blush.
Yeah.
Nasty. Talking about picking up women and all
Well,
this
that's
stuff.
life. That's life.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you wonder, too, what's going on in the armed forces of Britain, France, Germany, if they're dealing
about
with this
Israel?
issue. Israel, of course, is.
Well, Israel, you
Yeah.
have to serve because they have a law
Yep.
that you have to put so much time in, whether either in the services, or in some kind of
Whether
other
you're a
service.
man or a woman.
Right.
Well, we had huge numbers. In fact, this is actually the anniversary of the day. It's there tomorrow that the WAC unit was formally disbanded in 1977, I think, when we merged the women into the armed forces.
They came
because-
in 43.
But we had the Women's Army Corps, and we had the Waves and the WAF. We had hundreds of thousands of women. But they served as secretaries, as typists. They flew
Exactly.
planes. We had a more reasonable, common sense approach to it in those days.
No, you said a lot there. Common sense.
Yeah.
That's asking too
But
much.
that's common sense is no longer
Out the window.
terribly evident in
Yes.
the upper
I
echelons
don't think
of our
it's in
government.
the
Not in our
dictionary
language anymore. No.
The problem comes in now with Afghanistan and everything else. They said in the Second World War, you had a rest period in between battles. In Afghanistan, there was really no rest period, so consequently, they had a higher rate of military mental problems. But so this is one of the problems coming in. You're forcing more and more people to do, or less and less people do more and more, and in a combat situation, it doesn't work. Even in real world, doesn't work too well. Because they get fatigue, mental problems, and all this other stuff, and then they are prone to more accidents and this type of thing.
Well, also we've downsized the military. We've particularly the Army and the Marine Corps, so that these guys have to be, they're given a short respite, and then they're back in combat again. They're given because we simply don't have the manpower to deal with the commitments around the world, because we've in order to cut the budget and make money available for other supposedly more important expenditures, we've cut the defense budget down. We've cut the size of the Army, and that's why. And the burden is being paid by these guys and women that are in our armed forces today, who are being called upon to keep going back over. How many times do you hear of somebody who's had 5 tours of duty in Afghanistan, or 6 tours of duty?
I just sat with a lot of them yesterday, this weekend, and again, what you're talking about, we're right back to thank you, Mr. Clinton and Mr. Whatever this guy's name is,
what they're
for
doing is that
cutting
they're
down the military and making it tougher for the people that are in there.
One of our current president's major concerns in the U.S. military was to allow gays to serve openly.
Yeah.
That was a major concern of his.
Hey, use it for social engineering,
Right, exactly.
not for its real purpose, but for political purposes.
Yeah.
Generally, many gays are capable of doing the work. There's no doubt about it. You know, whether gay or not. It's just they have a reputation that goes back, I don't know how, thousands of years. But you look at some of the work. You look at some of the accomplishments of the gay community that you don't hear about. They're capable of doing it. It's just the fact is that not everybody knows what to do because they're afraid their mentality is different, that they would have combat problems. So I don't know, but you got everybody that does that same thing. You got such so-called conscientious objectors, which refuse to serve in the service, but there was some that had that and they served in the Corpsman crew.
Lou Ayres was famous. It hurt Lou Ayres' career because he was a conscientious objector, the actor, in World War II. You wonder, how can somebody be a conscientious objector to World War II, fighting the Nazis? But he was. And he wound up a medic. He served as a medic in combat. But it's said that it hurt his career. His popularity went down, the fact that he wouldn't actually serve.
A lot of your conscientious objector refer to the biblical quote about thou shalt not kill. However, the original Hebrew was thou shalt not murder, which is, of course, an unjustified killing. Because Lord knows there are a few killings documented in the Bible, are there not?
Yeah.
Thousands.
How would you say that?
No, I'm just saying, it's too broad a definition.
The slaying of the Egyptians, when Charlton Heston holds out his arms and and all the
what
Egyptian
about with
armies drown
the
in
Hittites or whoever they were?
Red Sea?
Yeah, that was
we have a caller. Hello, caller, are you there? Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Yes, caller. Mystery caller. Is that you, Charlie?
Yes, it is, sir.
Charlie Johnson?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And why are you calling today? To let us know about something?
Yes. Your topic today is on veterans.
Veterans in the military, yes?
Correct. Well, my name's Charlie Johnson. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a commander of a VFW post located in Chicago, Rhine Post 2729, located at 5858 South Archer. And I'm calling about our VFW program that we have assisting veterans. And we are always looking for new members to join the VFW.
Okay. Is there a drive going on now or something?
Well, there's a membership all year round. We're always looking for new memberships. A lot of our older members are passing away. We had World War II veterans. We have Korean veterans. We have veterans from Vietnam, Afghanistan, and all over. To join the VFW, you have to serve during wartime and get combat pay during wartime to join a VFW. And like I said, it's an elite organization. To join, if you can, you have the time. Feel free to call my post with any information. The phone number is 773-284-9025. And also the state of Illinois, it'll assist any kind of veteran out there. State of Illinois phone number would be 312-814-2460. And that helps all veterans. You don't have to, be in wartime to serve during wartime out of country. That's how you get to be a VFW member. You serve out of country during wartime. And you get combat pay. And like I said, there's that number I gave you. Any kind of veterans out there that needs assistance, give them a call. Our VFW service officer is Barry Walter, Walter, and his phone number is 312-980-4284. And what he would help you with, anything to do with government pension, health care, education training, employment, burial service, housing, permits, transportation, military records, and more. So again, that's Barry Walter. The phone number is 312-980-4284. He is the service officer for the state of Illinois for the VFW. So I gave you the phone number to VFW, and I gave you for the state of Illinois for all veterans who needs assistance. And the acting director there is a Mr. Garcia for the state of Illinois.
We have a few questions for you, Charlie. Can you hang on?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Charlie. My name is
Good morning.
Jeanette. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Your information was great. So many people cannot usually find that. I'm going to ask you a personal question. You said you came out of the Vietnam War. Am I
Okay.
right?
Yes.
What today is your feeling as to the way you were treated when you did get discharged and
When I
arrived
got
home?
discharged, it was like we didn't get the parade that we got, but we did get it later on down the line. There was a Mr. Stack who, bless his, he died of Agent Orange cancer. He was a teacher at Daly College there at the time, and he organized the homecoming for the veterans of Vietnam. We had the parade finally, but it was a hard feeling. In fact, I went from one Vietnam to another Vietnam. I worked as a Chicago police officer out of 51st and Wentworth about less than a year after I got discharged. And I remember going to the protest that they had downtown where they were carrying the caskets of the dead soldiers. And it was, like I said, I drafted. I know people that went to Canada when they got drafted, but I did go for our country, and I served 13 and a half months in Quan Tri, Vietnam. And I'm glad I went, and I'm glad I served our country.
And
There as a veteran and also as a police officer, Chicago police officer for 33 years.
And Mr. Johnson, and thank you for saying what you did say. We're proud of you. In respect to that, I just brought up a statement of how many of our young fellows going into the draft, or rather volunteering to be drafted, would use the word "for our country." I feel that that's a failing statement. Today, the youth doesn't seem to have that patriotic attitude. They're quite listless when it comes to a desire to help or defend. And do you see that as you go on through the years and deal with different people?
Okay, what I see out there today, the volunteers do want to fight for our country and want to honor our country and will do anything for our country. You hit it on the head, volunteers. The younger kids, these younger kids nowadays, they have no idea. You go up there and say, you know, what a veteran, you know what a VFW is. I honestly think, I hate to say that, but our teachers in these schools, I don't think they teach them enough about the veteran. Veterans are veterans all year long, not just because Veterans Day, 4th of July. A veteran's a veteran for 365 days a year. Okay, now all of a sudden they want to honor them. They don't teach these kids in school, and that's where I blame the teachers, whether they can't do it because the principal, I have no idea. But I went into a local store, one of the big chain stores, and I must have talked to seven or eight young kids, probably 18 to 22, and nobody knew what a veteran was, and nobody knew what a Veteran of Foreign Wars organization was.
I agree with you.
I mean, we're a VFW, but there's also American Legion out there, which are great organizations. We both work together. The bottom line is we do take care of veterans who need help. In fact, we just went to Viola Extended Care last Tuesday. We played bingo. We gave kits for the veterans. We gave lap blankets for the ones in the hospital in wheelchairs. That was an extended care. October 28th, we'll be going to Jesse Brown Hospital and passing out hats and scarves. So we play bingo and we give monetary gifts. And the money that we collect from poppies, this is what we use some of our poppy money. So when you see around Memorial Day weekend and you see somebody out there,
Hello.
a veteran that needs us.
You still there?
Oh.
Are you still there?
Mr. Johnson, you were fading away. Are you?
Just repeat what the last part you said there, Charlie.
No, I said what we do. That's what we do with our poppy money that we collect over the Memorial Day weekend. You see us on the corners, you see us on the street, and majority goes for assisting veterans in the hospitals or a veteran that might need some help, some other assistance. And we go out there and we go to the two hospitals, Loyola Extended Care Center and Jesse Brown.
You're a wonderful representative of your group, and I thank you for your answers. I suggest that possibly we have more advocating to have peoples go to our schools and possibly, let them.
Last year around Veterans Time, we did go to a local school and we passed out flags. And here's something: we're passing out flags at local schools to these kids, and they asked us questions. And a couple kids came up to me and says, "Can we have your autograph?"
Yes.
Now, it doesn't get any better than that. We're not a professional football player or professional basketball player or baseball. We're veterans who served this country when we were called.
Well, you're better than the football player.
Well,
let me tell you that.
Like I said before, a young kid, maybe like
Yes.
third or fourth grade, comes up to you and asks you for your autograph. It kind of like touched you in the heart.
Yes.
Did you give it to him?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
For $10.
Did you charge them, Charlie?
No, we didn't charge them, but they were young kids, and we gave them flags. And in fact, we're going to go to the same. That's what I'm trying to get our veterans together and maybe come closer to veterans. That we do visit some of our local schools. We have at least 5 or 6 local schools in the southwest side of Chicago, Garfield Ridge, Catholic schools and public schools, and we'd like to get out there a little bit more. But the problem is our guys are a little bit older now, and they don't have to get up and go like they used to. They served their time. They worked in VFW for years, and now they're getting a little bit older. That's why we're always looking for new members to keep our organization going. At my post and anywhere in the state of Illinois, VFW.
Well, Charlie, we're up against a hard break, as they say in the radio business. One more question before you go. Do you have a website, or is there a website for the VFW in Illinois?
No, we don't have a website, but it's the right post. I don't actually, be honest with you, our quartermaster set it up. Mm-hmm. But we're located, I told you earlier, 5858 South Archer. The phone number is 773-284-9025. If you call, leave a message, and I'll be glad to call somebody. I'll even give you my cell number, 312-218-1025. If there's a veteran out there that we can assist or give them some information of who to call, we'll be glad to do it. That's my philosophy is veterans helping veterans.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah,
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you for answering such wonderful
Didn't
questions.
you do a good job?
Very good.
Hooray.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. God bless America.
Come back
Thank
anytime.
you, hon.
You've been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians. Please don't turn that dial.
Is that what this is?
Well, friends, now that the warm weather is here, and now is the time to think about your roof, siding, and gutters on your home or place of business. We could get some heavy rainstorms in the next few months, so be sure the roof, siding, and gutters are in good shape. You don't want mold or mildew in your attic or crawl space, or drip, drip, drip on the ceilings in your rooms, or have your walls damaged by a leaky gutter or bad siding. So don't have double expense. Sooner or later you're going to have to get them repaired. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Mike Best will drive over in his shiny red truck with ladders on top and Best Brothers Roofing signs on the doors. Mike will look over your siding, roof, and gutters and give you an estimate and go from there. So once again, don't have double expense. Call Best Brothers Roofing for a free estimate at 630-616-1359. That's Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Call today for a free estimate, the number once again is area code 630-616-1359. You won't be sorry.
We return you to our discussion.
Welcome back, everyone.
But I was talking about earlier, one of the problems that...
Wait a minute. Time out.
Time out?
Time out.
Time out?
Time. There's a time out for you. We're reminded we didn't introduce ourselves today, so it's...
maybe nobody wants to know who we are.
To my right, and you are?
I am Jeanette Frontier, formerly from WJJG, and we welcome you today.
And you had your own show.
I did. A talk show that was 2 to 3 hours, and I really enjoyed it for a few years, and it proved very interesting.
Name's Al Opitz. I used to be Austin Irving Community Council president. Since that time, we sort of disbanded. Now we're concentrating on the Reed Dunning Memorial Park, which is just off the corner of Neenah and Belle Plaine. And it's a nice little park. It's a tribute to the 38,000 people that were buried in that location.
And what is your background? You're a chemical man.
Chemical engineer.
Chemical engineer, see? Which railroad?
The
Reading.
adjutant to peak at Santa Fe.
No, see, I got to remember, this is Jack Ryan speaking. I didn't introduce myself. So, anyway, our people are very modest about talking about their background and accomplishments, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different about my jail sentences. I don't talk about that part. But okay.
Winston Churchill was once told that a man was a very modest man, and Churchill says, well, he has much to be modest about.
What is it? Lady Astor said to him, Mr. Churchill, if you were my husband, I should give you hemlock. And he said,
Madam,
Lady Astor,
if you were my wife, I would drink it.
Nice case, Tom.
Oh, great.
Tom McKenna, retired Chicago police officer. And I'm not modest about the fact that I am a lifelong friend of our moderator, Jack Ryan.
You really admit that?
That's right.
You've got all kinds of problems.
Still one of the few that will admit it.
Trying to buy back introduction, huh?
Right.
Next, Rick.
This is your announcer, Rich Lang. I've done some teaching of modern European and American history. I'm just an amateur fan of history.
Yeah, but you saw at what level?
Yes.
College level, right?
Freshman and sophomore college.
Just freshman
surveying
level.
courses.
Just freshman.
You're not the fan that was involved in that big dispute down in Florida over the debate, were you? Or was that a different type of fan? That must have been a different type of fan.
Oh, okay. That was not me. I deny all involvement in that.
They ain't funny when you got to explain them.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. My name is John S. Kacholko, and since we're honoring veterans today, I'll identify myself by saying I'm the son of Private First Class John Ellis Kacholko, my dad, who served in combat in the South Pacific during World War II in the United States Army, the 6th Infantry Division, won the Bronze Star for heroism in the Philippines, was involved in the landing at the Lingayen Gulf and the Hollandia campaign, saw Clark Field, was involved in the liberation of Manila, and I wear his ring that he bought in Manila in 1945, inscribed with the Philippines. So I'm very, very proud of my father and like to honor him whenever the opportunity arises.
Very good.
Thank you.
And your own background, you were?
I was in public office. I was a state representative in Springfield. I served in town office as trustee and as assessor in the town of Cicero, do a lot of public speaking, first-person presentations. I portrayed General MacArthur a couple of meetings ago, and enjoyed doing radio and television, and enjoyed being on the old WJJG, which was a great experience for all of us.
We'll never see its like again.
No, never.
Yes, sir.
And I'm Bill Kugelman, and very proud to say that I'm a retired member of the Chicago Fire Department, and the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago is one of my great loves, as was the U.S. Army, I was John. I was named after my uncle, who I never knew because he was killed in France at the end of World War One.
Oh, really?
And the armistice, not knowing this bunch that the place that he was at, they had already signed the armistice. And
He was actually
Bill
killed
was
after.
killed
Oh,
after the
God.
armistice was signed.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
he's buried in Rose Hill Cemetery, and the old people there always told us that his funeral was one of the largest that they ever had. He was a hero for at that place. He was a fireman. He was for 3 days before he set sail to go overseas. World War
Doughboy.
I. And and I went over to France myself, and was in a specialized unit, and very proud of that. Very proud. In fact, I wore a ring that there's only 3 of us left out of 8. It was in my unit, and the rest of them are passed away now. And we used to get together every year, and we'd throw in $100, and then the one gal, the wife of one of the guys, was worked for a bank, and she took care of it, and then she bought us all. Well, there was only 5 of us left. Bought us all rings, and it's a lot of memories.
Yes.
This is the first you related that here, as far as I know.
Pardon?
Did you? It's the first you related that about your uncle here, as far as I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Now, when you were in France, did you get a chance to visit where he was, or the battles
No,
were?
no, I didn't go over there. I had my wife over, and with the job that I had, I couldn't do that. But it's really weird to go to Rose Hill and see his headstone with my name on it, same name as him, and very proud of that. But it's an eerie feeling when you go there and see.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, he's buried with the family.
So he got
with
killed in
our
1918,
grandmother and that. Yeah.
But he would be proud of you too, Bill.
He was killed on November 11th.
Oh my.
Oh, my
of
God.
1918.
Actual day.
My son was killed here. He was a state trooper on November 10th.
Oh my.
And
How long ago was that now?
yeah, that's 28 years.
And that's-
Yeah,
was
28
this-
years is coming up.
Was he John?
That was John.
John,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, District 2 of the state police headquarters is
Yeah.
named after him, or
And where's this?
dedicated
Where's that
to him.
located?
In Elgin.
Mm-hmm. So right nearby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And-
I have a lot of good, heartfelt feelings for the state troopers. You know.
And,
of course, none of them have given me a ticket yet, but that could change.
I was going to say, the offender is walking today, right?
The offender is walking. He lives in Franklin Park. Mr. Malind is the number one. We passed a state law similar to the sex offenders law, but it's the murderer offenders law, and he is number one to register. They have to register every January, and they have to pay for it. And that's any convicted murderer. in
Now, see, that's
state of
news to
Illinois.
me. Did you know anything about that before, Tom? Right?
What, the
Killers? Murderers?
Yes.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah. I tell you, not a funny story, but one that makes me very proud is that I insisted, kinda, that he be number one. And 4 troopers went out to where he worked and escorted him out of work to the Franklin Park Police, where he registered,
After.
and then they let him go.
Oh,
And I thought that was
That's
good.
all you can get.
Yeah.
so you can probably access that on the internet?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I
also
believe so.
sex offenders.
Under the state of Illinois, the state troopers, state police.
I think
website.
I
Well,
think
you
you
know-
can do that. And sex offenders are in the state archives too.
This is
Yeah,
this
so I
is
could do both of
different.
them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
this is
different.
It's different, but
Yeah.
still.
But, you know, getting back to the service, the American military service in France, you know, I'm sure that you can rest easy knowing how much the French appreciate the U.S. military over there. I saw a documentary once. I absolutely could not believe this, that they were interviewing people about, the U.S. military, World War I, World War II, and the impact that it had about liberating France, and they are upset. The French people, they don't. The one woman said, when does the favor end? How much longer do we have to endure this being reminded about the Americans? I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
Till the next time somebody kicks their door in and they want the Yanks to come there. And
I mean, when does it end? There's a very simple answer to that. It never ends.
You know, in all, and I understand what I'm not in any way contrary, but in all fairness, in Normandy, I understand that's not true. I mean, I've seen documentaries that in Normandy, the school children still come out every year on June and they lay flowers and flags.
They're reminded by
in the small towns.
Cemetery.
I think that's maybe more of the big city mentality.
Paris is bad. They don't like Americans there. Period.
Right.
A friend of mine, not a friend, but someone I spoke to once who was French, says you have to understand, it isn't just that the Parisians don't like Americans. Parisians don't like anybody. They don't like the other French. They don't like anybody. They're arrogant toward everybody.
The most disastrous comment was from a French politician when they said, there are a lot of American soldiers buried on French soil, and he said, we can dig them up and send them back.
Oh
boy. Yeah. Well,
it's
amazing.
We can't top that one.
Well, you remember when Reagan asked for overflight when they were going to bomb Libya, and the French government refused, which would have made it much easier for our planes to bomb Libya. So when we then bombed Libya, that somehow they accidentally hit the French embassy.
Whoops.
I mean, purely. I'm sure it was purely accidental.
General Schwarzkopf still has the best comment when the French didn't join the coalition and whatever endeavor it was, and he said, going into battle without the French is like going hunting without an accordion.
Right.
Well, I was talking to a combat soldier in Patton's army, and he said Patton would not discuss future battle plans with either de Gaulle or with Montgomery because he said the next day the Nazis knew about it. So there's a lot of leaks.
I wonder if that's true.
I have a little thing to say
about I lived there for a year and a half, and the French are a different type of people.
Well, I'm just saying what they said about de Gaulle.
I was lucky that I didn't have to wear a uniform most of the time in my job, and traveled around, and so I didn't have that onus. They knew who I was.
Did they think you're one of the Frenchmen?
You know what? I took Spanish at St. George, and I knew more French at that time. And Jack, don't ask me, because I've forgotten as much French as I did Spanish.
Well, in a slang sense, we say French, you mean foul words too.
Well, right? to us, and I apologize to anybody out there, but they were all frogs.
Yeah. Frogs?
That's all. Yeah, that was our name for them, and it stuck.
That's like I play with the Chicago Police bagpipe band. I used to play with the Emerald Society, but the Chicago Police Department has a bagpipe band made up of all Chicago police officers or former Chicago police officers. For the last 2 years, we were invited to go to Quebec City for their St. Patrick's Day parade. Boston Police, New York Police, and Chicago Police. They call us the big three. Their city, is thrilled that they got the top three Chicago, New York, and Boston police bagpipe bands to play there. But to get to the point, they speak French in Quebec City, and I mean they speak. As a matter of fact, all the signage has to be in French. But at the welcoming hospitality suite that the mayor of Quebec City and the chief of police of Quebec City, I told them, I said, in everything everything is in French, and I said you have to understand, that we're from Chicago and Boston and New York City, and as you well know, we don't speak French, we speak Spanish.
Yes, you're on target.
Did you get a comment?
Yeah.
How about Polish? A lot of Polish. Next
Yeah,
to Warsaw, right?
I was up in Montreal '67, and it's again French languages, but generally it's not too difficult to get through because the signs are bilingual.
Most are bilingual.
Yeah, and it was sort of interesting. My brother went up there for his first wedding honeymoon, and he made reservations to like 20 miles out of town and whatever it cost him for the hotel. I went there in a Lark.
A Studebaker Lark?
No, it's a Chevy Lark.
Al, you mentioned Patton, and I have a little bit of something that I'd like to talk about regarding the general. Of course, we should all know that the World War II ended June 6, 1944, defeated Hitler's Third Reich. That was Omaha
That was
Beach.
invasion.
D-Day.
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 Yeah.
Omaha Beach in Normandy. General George Patton was the leader of the Third Army, and this was the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge. And among all the fears they had was the weather. Heavy rains were on the weather report, and so he had a prayer card made up through a Catholic priest in regards to the rain and handed them out to 250,000 men. And on the back, because it was December 12th to the 14th that he did this, on the back he put on a Christmas greeting. 2 days later, the Battle of the Bulge began. And why I brought it up is we know him as such a powerful leader and a let's go forward type of man. But here in his, the empathy of the weather, thinking how that could demolish his plan for crossing over and so on and so forth, he had these cards made up, which is a little known history.
They covered that in the movie.
All right. But I just thought,
well.
That chaplain stands in good with the Lord.
And there you are.
Decorated,
And the owner of Arlington Racetrack, Richard Duchossois, is 92 years old, and he was in this battle.
Battle of
It's
the Bulge,
ironic, somebody we know. And then, John, you brought up about the WACs and so on. In the Army, they were called the WACs. That's the Women's Army Corps. The Navy, it was the WAVES, Women Accepted Volunteer Service. The Marines, ironically, it was called BAM.
Yeah.
Beautiful American Marines. The Air Force was WASP, Women Air Force Service Pilots. And if you were in the Seabees, that was the same for the women and for the men, kind of a trade-off of the Navy. I think the Seabees
In the
was...
Coast Guard, they
Seabees
called
is-
them spars.
Spars.
Spars, there you are. So I forgot about that one. But anyway, I just thought that was you brought up
Yeah,
Patton, and this is a lighter version of
Too
something
bad
that
we don't
happened
have
in the
more
war.
Pattons.
yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad we don't have politicians that listen
Well,
to
Patton,
people like Patton.
Patton was the greatest
Yeah.
combat
Can you say
officer
ISIS?
of the European theater in World War II.
Can you say
He
ISIS?
was
I-
far and away the best
Oh, they
combat
were,
general. And the one
A
the
true
the
soldier.
Germans most feared
A
Patton
true,
as well.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, the other one that I always
True
consider
warrior.
the other one I always consider a great general was Rommel.
Oh, yeah.
On the other
yeah.
side,
Yeah.
it's for the same reason, basically.
They've been running the film The Desert Fox with James Mason, which is a terrific film. That's really a great film.
Yeah.
I mean, James Mason really did an outstanding job portraying Rommel in that movie. And that was made just a few years. It was in 1952. So
short time.
it was already then they knew of Rommel's part in the plot to overthrow Hitler and the fact that he'd been forced to commit suicide for it. Can't really call it suicide because he was forced to take his life. It's not really suicide when you're someone holds a gun to your head and says, take poison.
Patton and
But,
Patton very much honored Rommel.
Yeah.
He admired the guy.
Well, the other one is Valkyrie for a great.
Operation Valkyrie.
Yeah, that was a great movie also. And that the CD or the DVD I got shows the public TV presentation of what Rommel, or not with Rommel, but with the Valkyrie episode, and it was quite factual from what the understanding I had. Of course, they got to compress it within 2 hours, but still, and I forgot the name.
Stauffenberg?
Stauffenberg. They got
Colonel
a street
Count
named
von
after him now.
Stauffenberg.
And he was despised for a long time, and then they changed their attitude and they found out what the truth was.
This new movie that's out now,
Fury?
is supposed to be a very good,
Yeah,
good
I
movie.
meant
I
to
haven't
talk-
seen
What
it.
is that
or-
about?
It's
no,
World War II.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I'm just listening to what people are saying that it's a blockbuster.
Yeah,
No.
it made the top
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah.
If I could just, that ties into something that I wanted to talk about. Here it is. It's 2014, and we are still making motion pictures about World War II, which shows you how different our reaction to the Second World War was to
Yeah.
World War One. World War One. Whenever I give a talk every year on what I still like to call Armistice Day, November the 11th, because my mom and dad and the family, everyone always called it Armistice Day because that's what it had been. But World War One had a very short shelf life. Well, when the first Armistice Day came in 1918, it was over, and people did not want to be reminded about it. We very quickly came to the conclusion we had been suckered, that we had been snookered, that the war was not what it had, and because it had been so oversold by Woodrow Wilson, the war to end all war and to make the world safe for democracy. The story is told that in American theaters, we had this huge backlog of movies because Hollywood had been grinding out war films. Because there was, of course, they were silent, but Hollywood was already
propaganda
strong
films,
at that
yeah.
time, and the war ended much more quickly than we had expected. Everyone expected the war was going to last into 1919. So the studios had this big backlog of war films, and when the war was over, you couldn't give away tickets to a war movie. And I've seen pictures of theaters where they had these guys with the sandwich boards saying, this is not a war picture, so that people would come into the theaters. And the reason I mention that is that I always call the doughboys the really forgotten veterans, because we lost about 100,000 American servicemen in the First World War. They were only in combat for about 6 months.
Yeah.
We declared war in April of 1917, but it took, because Woodrow Wilson was not a man of military preparedness, it took us a year to get an army raised and trained and equipped and organized and to ship it overseas and get it into so we didn't actually go into combat until about May or June of 1918. We lost 100,000 men in 6 months. Population of the United States was about a third of what it is today. It was about 100 million. So that would be like 300,000 dead in 6 months. That's 50,000 men a month.
Yeah.
That's
never
more
talk
than
about it.
10,000 men a week. I mean, it averages out to about 1,500 men a
day.
day in modern terms. I'm thinking in terms of, can you imagine today if we were in a war where every night after night, you would be told that 1,500 Americans died today. Now, obviously, it didn't happen evenly. There were battles.
No.
It did, but I'm just, in terms of the casualties, we can't comprehend the losses.
It seems more gory than World War II.
And for that reason, I think we owe a debt of recognition to the doughboys of World War I. The last one died about 3 years ago. His name was Frank Buckles. He was well over 100 years old. He was the last remaining American doughboy. And I think when Armistice Day, Veterans Day comes around, it's good to give a thought to the men that served and never got the recognition because the public just had no interest in the war after that. No one ever called them the greatest generation. Nobody really gave them, and they were so quickly overshadowed by World War II that World War I was largely pushed into the background.
Well, the other thing historians always say, the signing the armistice in 11/11/11, or anyway,
The 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, you're referring to, right?
However, the vast majority of historians consider that the first day of World War II.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Because of the fact that it was such poorly
The piece.
administrated
Piece of
and
our
all
side,
this other
sure.
stuff like this here that
It just
it
blows.
created.
Setting up the terms for a rematch.
Basically got Hitler into power.
Setting up the term for a rematch. Well spoken.
You
Well,
mentioned.
The other thing was that Hitler, like a lot of politicians, was a great orator, and he told everybody what they wanted to hear, and consequently got in there. And plus, he had the brown shirts, the people that were not happy with the result of the end of World War One. So consequently, you had a lot of sympathy towards Hitler in Germany, anyway.
John, I had a uncle.
Gwen.
I had an uncle who was a considered a doughboy, and he got mustard gas.
Yeah.
Of course, that hit your mind. And to put it in perspective, he spent 40 years in a hospital.
Never had a
Think of today's
Yeah.
world, the hospital.
Well, that amount of casualties wouldn't happen today, you know.
I hope never, but I'm just
because of
saying
medical
the
and
perspective of what
helicopters and.
Well, the other thing
like
is
that.
now mustard gas in World War One, but now they came out with the Agent Orange during the Vietnam War, which basically had the same effect.
And they just found all of the
That was a chemical. That was a herbicide.
herbicide, but it ended up being
if you're going to kill the weeds, you're going to kill the men.
Yeah.
We got on that note. We go to a break.
We'll be right back after these messages of interest and importance.
That is
How are the tires on your vehicle? Do you need motor oil? Or transmission fluid? Or power steering fluid? How about antifreeze? What about the wiper blades? Are they in good, sharp condition? Is the washer fluid in your tank full? How good is your battery? Do you need to replace light bulbs? Well, the place to pick up all these items is at Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Stop in and see Tom, and he will get any part or supply you might need for your vehicle. He has every tool, part, or supply you might need, from the front bumper to the rear bumper, from the top of the roof to the bottom of the chassis. You can call Tom at area code 708-544-8350. And they are located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Tom's hours are Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. On Saturdays, he's there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. And he's even open on Sundays from 10 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. He is just east of Wolf Road and west of Mannheim Road, about 2 miles on the south side of the street. You can call 708-544-8350 for parts, tools, and supply. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 708-544-8350, and he's located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois.
The name
Construction battalions. See?
That, of course, was the theme from the 1944 Republic Films production of The Fighting Seabees, which starred John Wayne and a number of other very, very good actors. And, of course, Seabees, they spell out S-E-A-B-E-S, but where does that actually come from? Anyone know?
Construction battalions.
Yeah, construction battalion.
CB.
Yeah, and these were the guys, they really got those bases going in no time in these islands and island hopping. And this is particularly in the Pacific now.
Yeah, they sustained considerable casualty rate too because of that.
Right. I had an uncle was in that, and my aunt was glad to see he stayed in. They went in late in the war, but they had like 6 kids. So she was doing pretty well. Bernard was back at home.
You're mentioning of that being
Because John Bro O'Connell, he's gone now, of course, but.
Now you're mentioning that being a 1944 movie. It ties in just with a point that I was making earlier, and that is in World War II, Hollywood was very conscious. They didn't want to be stuck with a backlog of movies. So if you'll note, most of the great war movies were made in 42, 43, early 44. There are very few war films with a production date of 1945 because Hollywood stopped making war movies thinking that the same thing was going to happen. They didn't realize that the World War II was a different war. The public's enthusiasm would continue. So a few years later, you get the Sands of Iwo Jima, and you get 12 O'Clock High and Command Decision. So they're already making war, and they have continued ever since making war movies. Very few made in 45 because they were afraid of being caught with unsold movies that no one would want to see when the war ended.
Yeah, Sands of Iwo Jima, 1949 it was, so we got late already.
Yeah. Command Decision is 48.
I realize this is not TV, but every so
Show
often,
everybody anyway.
every so often I go out to Route 12, Rand Road, and Ballard Road.
Yeah.
I believe that's Mount Prospect, and there is a little park there, and these are the people. It's dedicated to the ones that died in France at Belleau Wood, and that reminds me of Earl Belfry and my
That's
other
World War
uncle.
One, gang.
Yeah.
That's World
Belleau
War
Wood.
One, and I will pass this around to the people here. There's quite a few. I mean, there's like 4 different monuments there, and they are always flowered and adorned
Somebody's
with
always taking care of it.
candles and toys and little kids stuff and so you know that the people are still around.
Right.
It's quite. If anybody listening wants to go, that's Ballard Road and Rand Road, Route 12, and it's always kept up. It's kept up very well.
Yeah, Lincoln, Nebraska has a memorial park there that's quite nice, a veteran park, and they have a lot of memorials there. And I've only been there once. I was on a reunion with my organization.
Where's this now?
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln, okay.
You know
I've seen
place?
that. I've seen that.
Indianapolis is downtown Indianapolis is just filled with war memorials and monuments. The Civil War, the First World War, museums, very, very impressive.
Very dedicated.
Yeah, you're talking about the number of killed, though, but the greatest number, total casualties, probably was the Civil War.
Both sides.
Oh yeah,
No doubt, yeah, that's
they've revised for years. They said it was 600,000, 625,000. Within the last couple of years, they've revised it upwards to 750,000. So it's true. It is again true that more Americans died in the Civil War than in all of our other wars put together.
Well, part of the problem.
Because everyone who died was an American.
Yeah. Part of the
You
problem
didn't
ran
have to
into-
explain that, John, to Al. Al would have gotten that.
But we do have listeners who might not know the difference.
What about those Irish that just got off the boat and went in the army? Were they considered Americans already?
Well,
Or?
they were
they
wearing
sorta-
an American uniform.
They got abducted.
You have a point there. It wasn't an IRA boy, now was it? No.
But they came down from Canada too. But anyways,
Gee, later on we used to go up to Canada.
yeah.
To get away from-
Yeah.
What was your take on segregation regarding separation of color and so on in the service when that same man might be protecting you or saving you or
When I
did
was
that come together as a
when I was in
thought-
Poitiers, France, and I was given a type of a bodyguard, and he was a black MP. He was a sergeant, Sergeant Johnson, and married to a Sadako, to a Japanese gal, and they had a couple of kids. But anyway, we all lived in a chateau, Chateau de Sablonnier, and he lived on the first floor with his family, and I was on the 2nd floor. And you know what? I never, my time in the service, I never had a problem with with the difference between races. I'm sure that there were, but I know
that-
I didn't.
Bill,
I was in the ninth Infantry Division, and
that's one of the things that really, really upsets me now about, you talk about in the military, black, white, got along, police department, fire department, black, white, got along, you get along with your coworkers,
We're not on
black,
the
white,
street.
get along, and it's a disgrace that some of the race baiters have to come around and remind everyone of how racist white people are.
exactly.
It's a
Exactly.
disgrace.
Yeah.
Well, this is how they make money, though. You look at, especially the black churches, they'll come out, a lot of preachers come out with the white devil and all this type of stuff, and basically race baiting.
The thing is, one of the reasons that a lot of people voted for our president is he was going to unite the country. After he got elected, anybody that was listening to me said, I hope that every single thing this man says comes to being. I'm behind him 100%. Unfortunately,
You lost
it's
that bet.
it's the direct opposite. The problems down in Ferguson, when he went down there, and not to say, let's get beyond this, which he promised if we voted for him for president he was going to do, but he threw gasoline on the fire, and so did our Attorney General, Eric Holder. It's a disgrace. In the time that Obama's been president, there have been, I'm just going to say, but the number is pretty close, about 749 police officers killed in the line of duty. Of those 749 funerals, our president did not send one White House representative. Ferguson, the gentle giant that we're finding a lot more out about today,
Yes.
he sent 3 White House representatives to that funeral. That, in my opinion, is a disgrace.
And aren't they finding out now that everything the officer said is exactly right?
This is another classic example of
That's gonna
of
create
their-
a
of
civil
some
war.
people some people's minds are made up, so don't confuse them with the facts.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with Jesse Jackson. What was this guy that just died from Ebola down in Texas?
No, Duncan. Wasn't it Duncan?
Yeah, first thing Jackson said was they discriminated against him was racism.
They
That's
they
the first
have
thing that
made
came out of his mouth.
they have made us go back to the days of Alabama and before the civil rights.
They've
set civil
they're
rights
the
back.
ones. They're the ones that won't.
50 years more.
Yeah.
Well, how
Exactly.
about the latest? I said when the Ebola and how dangerous that this possible epidemic is, and I said if only we could have someone in charge like Joe Biden's former chief of staff. That's really what we're looking for, isn't it? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? In the United States of America,
Don't
they
forget
come
that
up-
he was the head attorney for the Bush Gore
Right,
face-off.
yeah,
That's
right,
that's
that
his,
worked out.
his
that worked-
main claim to fame.
that
is
worked out real well for him, didn't
I mean,
it?
if you've got a medical problem, what you want is a trial lawyer in there, organizing, and a
Wasn't he,
political. That's what's going to really
other-
get the physicians
Yeah.
up in high gear and
Wasn't he
mobilized.
also lobbyist for Solofra?
Could be.
I think,
Yeah,
just
lobbyist.
Solofra, no.
It's a Johnny Cochran story, isn't it?
Well, the other question is who's the Surgeon General of the United States?
We don't have one right now.
All right,
Okay,
now
or the current
uh,
one is retired and they haven't replaced him yet. There's a big hubbub over that.
Who
right
just
now.
got picked to represent this Ebola problem? I mean,
Yeah.
not even a day in medical school.
Well, you know, if
I don't
when
know what medical school is.
when Hurricane
I didn't know
Katrina
what to do.
when Hurricane
Bless your
Katrina
Philly.
hit, if President Bush had announced that Karl Rove was going to handle the coordination of all of our efforts, the media would still be screaming
Right.
about it today.
Exactly.
And David Letterman would still be doing
Right.
jokes about it tonight on the evening news. But
Jay Leno too.
Yeah.
Jay Leno.
Leno was a more reasonable guy, I must say. Leno, I never felt that Leno had the real hatred that Letterman just makes no attempt to conceal. Letterman makes no attempt to conceal.
He used
his
to be
feelings.
more down the middle, and
Yeah,
once he
but
became
Leno
a
tried to make
he became
fun
a
of both
character
sides.
assassin carrying the water like that. I didn't watch him. I just never missed that. I liked his humor.
Letterman.
Yeah. Now it's like
You don't have any choice.
I'll
Turn off
put
the
him on
TV.
like every 6 months.
Too
I'll
liberal
watch
for
it,
me.
and as sure as
Never
clockwork, he
changes.
does a joke about Bush.
Right.
I mean, it's 6 years later, he's still nailing Bush and Cheney. You talk about
He
a
must have
one-track
lost some
mind.
money.
Yeah, he's a little bit too liberal.
Oh,
well, after all, I mean, it's Bush's fault for all this.
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
You know,
Why don't they blame Herbert
starting,
Hoover?
We were starting to get into this the subject of our program here, and we did get into the politics. And you know, one of the things that has actually really bugged me for all these years is we have a war college that we send all of these admirals and generals and colonels and people, you know, that are supposed to be running the military, and they are supposed to advise the president on what to do. I don't think this guy even knows that there's a war college out there. And these guys,
Plus, he doesn't
are
attend
2, 3,
the
4 of them.
briefings, the daily briefings.
Well,
He-
2, 3, 4 of them tell them what to do, and it's like, nah.
Joe doesn't
nah.
listen.
I'll call in
Joe
what the heck was
Joe
his name?
Biden.
Oh yeah, Joe Biden. Yeah, there's another, you know, and I know I don't mean to bring him up, but I hope Obama, for our sake, has a healthy life, because if he doesn't, we're stuck with Biden.
Well, he's not coming to the south side, is he? He
He
bought
voted
in
today. He was on
California.
the news today. He
I
voted.
want to know
Okay.
who's paying for those airplanes that he's using for these campaign flights.
You are, because they always
You are.
you always schedule a small business stop
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
in amidst all of the fundraising
You
and
know
political
what? He had
activity,
to-
so that justifies it as
He
a,
had
as
to
a-
come back here today to vote,
Yeah.
and that's going to be the reason.
and promote
right.
and
He can't
promote
do- he
and
can't do
promote our
absentee,
governor.
He can't do
They've
absentee
got a
voting.
where's the rally at Chicago State, I think,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Chicago State. Probably one of the worst.
Well, the reason he's
colleges
coming
around
back
here.
he's coming back to Illinois is the politicians, the Democratic politicians in Illinois are the only politicians in the
Left.
entire country that want him here. I saw
And they're in trouble.
some statistics about in the battleground, several of the battleground states, Obama's popularity is like 25%.
Yeah.
You know, what did he say too? Don't make for sure. I'm on this next. He's involved in. I am an issue in this next election.
Yeah. But
He said it himself.
But both newspapers endorse Rauner,
Right.
and Rauner's not my first
Hell, not
choice.
both. All
Okay,
of
all.
the people, all over the
all
country.
major,
it sounds like
the
they're-
last two majors, I think Peoria
Herald,
and Decatur.
the Herald, the
I
Sun
believe,
Times, the
just
Tribune.
endorsed Rauner.
Yeah, I met Quinn years ago. I thought he was a nice guy, an activist, not very effective.
He's a car salesman.
Doesn't
No,
have power.
Quinn.
Basically, you're right.
No,
But
you-
Rauner, he may be a bull in a china shop, but right now the china shop's not doing anything. It might as well make
But
some
you
move
know
there.
what? That China shop has got him $60 million
Yeah.
and more.
A year.
And he's not, as a union guy, and somebody that he's made some statements, and I hope he doesn't listen to himself when he says that he doesn't like unions, and
But at least you know where he stands, right?
But yes, exactly.
Oh,
and
I'm
we
not- yeah,
need
yeah.
we need a change.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
We
goodness.
need a
Desperate
change
times.
all over.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
no.
to me, you know what Quinn is? We've all seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right?
Yeah.
So here's the governor of the state sitting down and being chewed out by the political boss. Was Edward Arnold, Mr. Taylor.
Guy Kibbe.
Yeah, Guy Kibbe, and so I mean, it's like the guy you don't see. What's the real power? Is it the committeeman or is it the office holder? In this
it's
case,
called
Quinn
Mike
is like
Madigan.
may as well be. Yeah, it's what Cass calls him on the radio, Madaganistan, Illinois, right? Madaganistan.
He's a puppet.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
strictly a puppet for
Yeah.
those
Him
guys.
and Cullerton. Cullerton, you don't hear too much about, but Madigan's out there all the time.
With the same suit he was wearing 40 years ago.
Yeah, same attitude too.
Yeah.
With his chief of staff, who was just
Truly,
Hope
what
you're
is
listening, Mike.
Michael
God, is he
Madigan's
funny.
position to a point of such superiority and
He's Speaker of the House and has been
Yeah.
forever. He's also I think he is still the chairman of the state Democratic
That's it.
organization.
It's in the party, not in the elected office.
Exactly. That's why I say I never see it on the voting. I never, because
I've always
is
been
that a
sure.
lifetime job? Is
Yeah.
that
Apparently.
what we're going
Case it
into?
is,
or-
yeah.
Apparently it is.
You know,
Well, remember,
Yeah.
this is a hereditary form of government in Illinois anyway.
Oh,
I always call it
gosh,
the
yes.
Grand Duchy
Oh,
of
yes.
Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
When
all
you
these
lived on our-
offices are
You wanna find
hereditary
your
anyway.
relatives?
Well, I do have to
I mean,
admire.
we don't elect. We don't do anything as
We
crude as
accept-
electing like they do in the
we
United
accept,
States of
we don't
America.
elect.
Well, I like.
Was it his son-in-law that just quit a job with the?
Oh, my
well,
goodness.
along that same line, I think it was the Sun Times. They said that they had headlines.
They're all connected.
Madigan
I have
uses
read it.
influence in hiring in Metra.
Anybody, they're all-
And I said, yeah.
No.
What's the next headline? The sun rises in the east. Yeah. I mean, are you kidding me?
2 plus 2 equals 4.
Yeah, I work for the city of Chicago. There's a lot of Madigan as there's there, but the
You know, his grandfather, I believe it was a fireman, Chicago fireman, and he came in to the notified or asked the museum to look up his history and stuff like that, and which a couple of guys did on their own and presented it to Mike and that was the end of it. Not even a
Thank you. Huh?
not even a thank you, a kiss my tokus or nothing, and
I do have to admire his stepdaughter though. She does a good job, and she doesn't listen to the old man. She double
Lisa,
crossed.
huh?
Yeah, Lisa.
Well, she has done one thing. She saved the state a lot of money on PAs. She doesn't need one.
Yeah. But the fact is that there was a couple things that Mike wanted her to do and she wouldn't do. This was sub headline news
Oh.
way down at the bottom of the page, and he was not too happy with her. But
she's not his stepdaughter. She's his adopted daughter.
Adopted daughter, okay.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, sorry about that.
So you know that.
Didn't we
yeah.
go through that some in the political view of Truman to MacArthur? Didn't Truman and MacArthur have a conflict?
You gotta remember.
Just
You gotta remember.
ahead.
Harry Truman was a served in the First World War. He was a combat officer, Battery D of the Field Artillery. He didn't like generals. I mean, he didn't like generals to begin with. He had a hostility. Harry Truman is an interesting guy because he had a totally different personality than FDR. FDR got along well with MacArthur. I mean, it's interesting. MacArthur had no real problems with FDR, even though they put MacArthur's name forward as a presidential candidate in 1944. He didn't go anywhere. But they were two similar personalities. They were both men with great egos, but they both come from kind of an aristocratic background, and they understood each other. And they got Truman was, the small
He was a
town
farm boy.
failed farmer, failed haberdasher, small town politician who hit it big, got to the Senate, becomes Truman.
Yeah.
He's a
Little
surprise
boy
choice for
that
vice
grew up,
president,
yeah.
and then 3 months later he's president of the United States. So they just were totally different personalities, and they were never going to hit it off together. I always say they were both wrong, and they were both right. MacArthur was right about the way we should have prosecuted the war. He felt if you're going to ask young American boys, as we always said, to go off and fight and die in Asia, you fight to win, and you use everything at your disposal to win. But he was wrong in not recognizing that the president is the commander-in-chief. And when the president said we're not going to do that, you have to accept the authority of the command. I mean, that's the idea of the
That's
chain
the
of command.
priority.
And even
Yeah.
if you're a 5-star general of the Army, the highest rank there is, you're still subordinate to your commander-in-chief, who's the President of the United States. I've always felt MacArthur should have requested an audience with the president. He should have flown to Washington, D.C.
Private meeting.
He should have presented his proposals, and if Truman turned him down, then he had no choice but to resign.
John, you
And
should
then
have
he
been
would
a
have been
politician in Washington.
Well, I thank you.
Well, you know, when the big
That's
I
how he
remember
should have
there was
handled
a conflict.
The-
there.
the big,
MacArthur again had his own problems because there's a big book called MacArthur's Pearl Harbor. It talks about the day after
Attack on the Philippines.
when he could make a decision to save his ass.
And his planes were all knocked out on Clark Field.
Right. That was his fault. And there's a book probably about 2 inches
It's not
thick.
his finest hour, no.
No, that's a nice way of putting it. But there was I happened to be down at the Air Force Museum at the time when the author was presenting a book, and it was quite fascinating, except the fact that it was so big that it'd take me a year to read it. And how he could spend that much time on one day, I don't know.
But MacArthur. I mean, there are many who consider him the greatest American general of all time. The achievement in the Pacific, the way in which he outmaneuvered the Japanese, he destroyed the Japanese forces with much lower, overwhelmingly lower casualty rates than what we had in Europe. Everybody thinks of Bradley and Eisenhower as the GI generals. But MacArthur's casualty rates were much lower than those suffered in the European theater. This guy, they think of MacArthur as the guy who didn't care about the GIs, he just wanted glory.
Not so.
The
No.
numbers don't show that. And then what he did in Korea at Incheon, when he landed those forces behind the North Koreans and destroyed them, that was sheer genius. It was bold and it was genius. I mean, he was certainly the greatest American soldier of the 20th century. I mean, you can say that without any challenge.
So the big issue was he wanted to go into Manchuria.
He wanted
north of the Yalu
when
River.
the Chinese start pouring into Korea, he wanted to attack them where they came from and to bomb their airfields, their supply lines, the bridges.
North of the Yalu River.
And we wouldn't authorize that.
But
because
again, the
they didn't wanna-
politicians won.
Yeah, that was Washington. And again, it was Bradley was now chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Bradley was a Missourian who got along famously with his fellow Missourian. People don't know that, but Omar Bradley was from Missouri. Same background as
You got to
Harry
show
Truman.
me that.
Harry Truman. So they got along well. They both came from that small
Good
town
old boys.
background.
Yeah.
And Bradley was really and to a lesser extent Marshall, because Marshall was no longer in the active armed services at that time. But they had it in for MacArthur.
Where were they from?
They never thought well of
John,
MacArthur.
where were they from?
You got to remember.
Bradley was from Missouri.
Missouri.
Okay, Missouri.
What's wrong with you?
Hey, John.
You got to remember, all generals are politicians first.
Well,
because they need the political
in the
background
sense-
to get up there.
The Army's part of government. I mean, the Army is part of government, and if
And
you're gonna succeed in the Army, you have to deal with senators and congressmen. And
MacArthur also, his father was a general too, who had helped him.
Arthur
along.
MacArthur, yeah.
In your opinion, what do you think if MacArthur had his way, what do you think the result would have been?
I think we would have destroyed the Chinese supply lines. We would have crippled their forces. We would have driven them out of North Korea once again, as we had driven the North Koreans' army back beyond the border, and that would have been the end of it. The idea that Stalin was going to start World War III in 1951, when he had a handful of atomic bombs and no ability to hit the United States. There were no ICBMs in 1951. There were no missiles that could hit. He didn't have any planes that could hit the United States. The idea that he was going to start World War III because we were driving the Chinese back, I think, just makes absolutely no sense.
Do you think it would have prevented North and South Korea if he had?
I think you would have had a unified, free Korea.
We already had it divided, though. It was already
and the
partitioned.
Chinese would have gone back in complete disaster.
I agree.
But what I always say is, the final analysis is it wasn't his decision to make. He was right, but he had to follow the orders of the president is the commander in chief. Whether you like the guy or not, he's the commander.
Well, the question always comes up with the atomic bomb. You know, you got people that go, okay.
We could we wouldn't have needed the atomic
Just a
bomb.
moment here. But it brings us right to the present. Like, yeah, he might be wrong, but he's still the commander-in-chief. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, in 1951, is that Truman made the decision. I think it was the wrong decision, but based on his State Department and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that he didn't want to, quote, widen the war. He didn't want to widen the war.
Escalate, they used later.
Yeah, widen the war.
With that happy note.
You're listening to Meet the Chicago Historians, and we'll be right back.
We're glad you are.
That's why I was saying they were both right and they were both wrong.
Could have done a lot of.
Exhibitors Carpet Service has changed their name to Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and their new location at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, Illinois, called Carpet of Highwood. Stop in at Carpet Warehouse, located at 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and their phone number is area code 773-283-0100, or at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, and that phone number is area code 847-266-1400. For carpets in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at either location for a great deal. Once again, Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and their phone number is area code 773-283-0100 in Chicago. Remember, if you need a carpet in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at 4300 Montrose Avenue in Chicago for a great deal on carpeting.
Naval hymn, which is, I believe it was handed down to us from the British Navy, and I remember they used this hymn also in the film of Titanic. Do you remember that? Anyone there?
Titanic was a
That's
British ship.
nearer my God.
Yeah, I know. That's what I just said.
Yeah.
We know. Anyway, that was one of our songs. We're probably going to have the last half hour. We'll be able to devote to some music of all of the branches, thanks to a last-minute maneuver by Brother Bill Kugelman. Anyway, where were we, gang? Talking about
We were talking about Russia.
Russia.
I was in Russia a few years ago.
Russia.
And we were up in St. Petersburg, and it's really an interesting city. You'd enjoy it because it's a little bit more open than people would think it was. And we visited Peterhof, which is Tsar Peter's palace and all that stuff. But we went to a market there, and it was sort of interesting. The people over 40 at that time, every time they talked to you, they kept on looking over their shoulder. And under 40, they said, "The hell with them! If we're going to go, what we're going to do." So
there's an old habit, huh?
There's an old habit. There was a big.
The joke under communism was whenever you check into a hotel in Moscow, they would tell you, "Please speak into the chandelier."
Yeah, but it's always funny the difference between the age group, how much you know. But anyways, the other one, I talked to somebody who visited both Moscow and St. Petersburg, and she said the difference between the two cities is like two different countries. You know, you got all the political intrigue and all this other stuff in Moscow. St. Petersburg is like out in the suburbs. Nobody knows what's going on.
We're much
Well,
more westernized.
that was that one Russian comedian's line. He said, "In America, you look for party, and Russia, party looks for you."
Yakov Smirnoff.
Yeah, right.
I loved it when he said that he was. I think they made him the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade, or he says I couldn't understand what is Rose Parade. He says, where are the tanks? How can you have parade with no
Without
tanks?
right?
Anyway, where are we?
But Russia, you go to. I was always find it intriguing the living accommodations there. They had a 8-story tall building about a kilometer long per housing. So you look at how many people can live in this place, and this was not the only one. This was in St. Petersburg. As you go further out, the smaller and smaller buildings like any other suburban city suburban reference. But you look at how many hundreds of people have to live in this place. From the outside, it looks pretty decent. Apparently, the people know how to live with each other. It's sort of a. Kugelman's voice is changing again.
Well, I know that. The communists changed the name of St. Petersburg to Leningrad.
Right.
But I've heard that even all during the years of communism, the people who lived there still called it St. Petersburg, at least when there wasn't any secret police officials around to overhear them. And when they were given an opportunity to vote on it after the fall of communism, they voted overwhelmingly to change the name back to St. Petersburg.
Is it true that they also changed the name of St. Petersburg, Florida to Leningrad during that Soviet period?
I don't believe so.
No?
I don't.
I'll have to look that one up.
I don't think it would be productive.
That was Jack Ryan once again. Jack Ryan.
Remember about all knowledge of him.
Remember what Rich said earlier. The opinions do not necessarily reflect the station
or anybody else.
So, where were we now with
we were looking at Stalin.
Stalin.
Uncle Joe.
Yeah, Uncle Joe. He was good at copying. He did a real good job of copying the B-29, except he had all the same problems the B-29 had, plus more. Mm-hmm. And he tried to import parts for B-29 or buy overseas on, I guess, the black market or whatever it was to build the planes, but not much more success than they had originally.
B-29 was a great plane. I mean, when you look at the raids that were launched against Japan, aside from the atomic bomb, the destruction that was done by the B-29. I mean, they were actually running out of targets.
The best one was the Enola Gray.
Yeah.
Oh,
Boxcar.
In Boxcar, yeah.
I saw the boxcar. That's at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
And that's on display.
Yeah, I met one of the pilots at one time.
For the audience who don't know what the boxcar was, that was the plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Nagasaki.
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah.
Was it 3 days later or something like that?
Yeah.
7th.
I met Olivia. He was.
Who's that?
I think his name is Olivia.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name till I tried. I met him too.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, I went to his house. He lived around 114th west of Western. He had a book and he had a video. I was looking for a couple of gifts for some of the older friends and family members, World War II. Oh, I'll get his book. Fred O'Leary.
Yeah.
And Fred O'Leary was his name. He was a young 25-year-old or whatever he was, a co-pilot for Boxcar. He showed me I saw the pictures and all. And he came back here. He was a widower. They never had any children. And he was a charge of the bridge tenders or some job that he deserved for their service in the war, if you ask me. But he was real easy to get along, talk to you just like that. Met him at one of those movie fairs actually, and I think I was at his house like 3 times. Yeah, and he passed away.
I got an autographed copy of his book too.
I do too. A green cover, flyable.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to read it because I got so far behind my
just as long as you got the book, you don't have to read it.
Yeah, I know.
Nagasaki was not the primary target that morning. The primary target was clouded over, fogged over, and so Nagasaki was the alternate target.
Yeah, but that's always the reinvention of what could have happened, what did happen, type of thing. And there's always people out there contend that you should never bomb Japan. However, Truman was really in the dark when Roosevelt died because he had no idea what was going on. So he had to pick up the pieces and try to put them back together again and make decisions. And like you said, he never got along with a lot of generals.
He said he felt all the pressure of the world fall on his shoulders that day.
All the stars, the moon, and the planets
Yeah.
are falling on me.
Yeah.
Well, that's just another thing. They talk about how many, say, American other Allied lives were saved because of the atomic bomb. What about other Japanese lives that would have been lost if there was
Millions, all you have to look is how they fought to the death over a rock in the middle of the island called Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
You know, we all know from the movie. You know, when the soldiers, God took all the dirt and rubbish and refuse that was left over when He created the world and put it here on Iwo Jima, and yet they fought to the last breath to defend it. And in Okinawa, you know, you think of how they were committing suicide rather than surrender to the Americans because they had been told that the Americans were going to rape and kill and plunder. So you think of how they would have fought for their home islands, how they would have fought for their home territory. They would have fought tenaciously, and they would have been slaughtered in the millions.
Yeah, I think Truman was probably correct, although I don't
probably. I have no doubt.
Because there's no, the amount of people. The amount of people from Japan that would have got killed probably would have been less than what would happen if they went in for full battle combat.
No doubt.
Because they would have shelled and bombed and everything else.
Do you think if Japan had that bomb that what they would have done to us?
Well, they didn't have the resources.
No, I'm just saying if they had it.
Adolf had it.
There's a movie called The Beginning or the End, which is made about 46 or 47. It's a semi-documentary about the Manhattan Project and the building of the atomic bomb. It's hardly ever on television. I saw it many years ago.
The beginning or the end?
It's the beginning of the end or the beginning or the end. I'm not sure the exact which. But at the beginning of the film, they have an actor who does a great job as FDR, and it shows where the letter from Albert Einstein is delivered to him. And he reviews it, and when the scientists leave, Missy Lehand, his secretary, comes in, and he says, "Missy, if Hitler had a bomb that could destroy Washington with one blow, what would he do?" And Missy Lehand says, "Why, sir, he'd use it."
Destroy Washington.
And FDR looks back and says, he kind of nods his head.
Yeah.
And that's
that sounds familiar now when you say that. Yeah.
And it's a great film. It's like I say, it's actors, but they're in a very documentary style, showing the development.
They
of the
were
bomb.
working on the bomb too. They had a heavy water plant in Norway somewhere.
Fortunately, they had a very primitive approach. They were nowhere near building an atomic bomb. And
Well,
Hitler,
they kicked all the.
Hitler had no confidence in what
they
he
drove
called
all those
Jewish
scientists out of Europe in the 30s
Right.
and
They all
built
came
it
there.
here.
Plus the fact they didn't have any airplanes that could deliver it.
Hitler always referred to it as Jewish physics. He didn't trust anything based on Jewish physics. Because Einstein, of
supposedly when our president was on one of his apology tours, and he was in Japan, supposedly from several sources that he wanted to make a formal apology about
like he did
Bombing.
before.
and someone said, "Mr. President, does Pearl Harbor ring a bell? Do you see them apologizing
Yeah.
for that?"
Yeah.
How about the Bataan Death March?
And I guess they
Oh,
talked.
God.
I guess they talked him out of it, but he really wanted to do it.
Permit me to take just a minute to tell another story honoring my dad.
Please, that's what we're here for.
Few
Yeah,
years,
we like stories.
about 2 years ago, I contribute to the World War II Museum down in New Orleans, and to the proposed U.S. Army Museum, which is going to be built in the very near future. And I was sent from time to time they will send you a premium, for your support. They sent me recently the government had declassified the invasion plans of Japan, Operation Olympic and Operation Coronet. Operation Olympic was going to take place late, like November of 45. And that was the invasion of the island of Kyushu. And Operation Coronet was March of 1946, and that was the main island of Honshu, the capital island of Japan. And my dad's division, the 6th Infantry Division, had been pulled back after the liberation of Manila, and they were being refitted with replacements and supplies from the States for the projected invasion of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Had the invasion taken place in March of 1946, my dad's 6th Infantry Division was assigned to land between, and it shows right on the map, it shows the arrows and the units involved, between Mount Fuji and Yokohama. They were going to land on that beach, which would have been the most heavily defended beach in the Japanese home islands. Their objective was the city of Tokyo. Now you imagine how the Japanese would have fought to defend their sacred capital, the home of the emperor,
The god.
and the slaughter that would have taken place on both sides. So I had this debate when I was in college once, and there was a student who was denouncing our use of the atomic bomb. Well, I hadn't seen the map at that point, but I knew my dad was scheduled to take place in the invasion. I said, if we had not used that atomic bomb, and we had to invade the Japanese islands with all the blood that would have been shed, I might not be here this morning.
We wouldn't be having this
talking to you,
conversation, would we?
because my dad would not be alive
That's
today,
right.
along with how many hundreds of thousands of others who would not be here. So I said, no one is ever going to convince me that Harry Truman made the wrong decision. So any criticism I may have made of Truman regarding his dealings with MacArthur, I withdraw all of that when it comes to World War II. I am wholeheartedly an admirer of Harry Truman for using the atomic bomb.
And it could have been the war that no one won.
Yeah.
I mean, by the
We would
loss.
have won,
I
but
mean,
at
you
the
know,
cost, would have the blood that we
man
would
for
have had
man,
to shed.
right? One left.
Would have
you know.
been-
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the other one that I found interesting, and I don't remember too much about, there's a book out called The Fatherland,
Yeah.
which was the what if type of
Oh,
thing.
Fatherland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Len Dayton, I think.
I don't know. I don't remember anymore.
It's
It's been so many years ago since I heard it.
What the world would have been like in the 1960s if Germany
Had
had
won.
prevailed in
Right,
Europe.
right.
They'd won the war in Europe.
And they show that Kennedy would have been elected and all this type of stuff. So a lot of
It was a
parallels.
Cold War between the Third Reich and the United
Yeah.
States.
So it was an interesting book.
Yeah.
You know, there's
They
a
made
lot
a
of
movie
people
about that.
Did
There's
they?
a movie.
Did anyone see the Ken Burns documentary on Roosevelt?
Oh, very much.
Part of it,
Wasn't it
yeah.
Very
excellent?
much so.
Excellent.
It was
Excellent.
such an
The
insight.
Roosevelts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was an insight to the other part of what we don't know about them. And,
Well,
and
yeah, it was interesting though. They were comparing Teddy to Franklin.
they
And
were
t-
opposites, but same.
Yeah, they
same
were so
drive.
far removed,
Yeah.
you know, over the years, you know, that I don't know if that any real relationship because of
Well, it's-
that.
it's,
You
you
know,
know,
FDR would never have become president if it hadn't been for the career of his cousin Theodore Roosevelt.
Right.
That name is what propelled
Carried him.
Yeah.
And FDR consciously made the connection. You know, we always think of FDR with those little pince-nez glasses. He wore those purposely to identify himself with Theodore
Make a
Roosevelt.
difference.
Because Teddy was noted for those glasses.
Uh-huh.
And there were many people who voted for him who thought that he was Teddy Roosevelt's son.
Ah.
And he didn't do anything. He didn't
correct
claim
it.
that he was,
No.
but he didn't do anything to disabuse people of the fact that he was.
Yeah.
And that drove the Oyster Bay Roosevelts up the wall. They couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little
That
conflict.
division
FDR
in the
owed his
family.
career to the success of his famous cousin.
I always admire Teddy because he was the one who really started the national park system.
right.
And he went out west and he admired it, and the people were talking about the encroachment of industry and everything else, and you lose all this
Beauty and nature.
beauty, wondrous
yeah.
area. So he started the national park system. So he was great in that. And he's the one that's up on Mount Rushmore. You know.
And
with
how we kind of misunderstood his wife Eleanor, who really started from a very negative
Oh, she had a horrible,
upbringing and
horrible
a
childhood.
mother
Yeah.
that called her ugly all her life, and actually ended up calling her grandma
Yeah. Yeah, they called her
instead of her name.
Granny. Yeah.
You know, and then she had
Her
a
father
fight
died
her mother-in-law
young.
who
Yeah.
owned her son, and so you know it was Roosevelt, his mother, and Eleanor. You know, that was their seating. So when you think of all of that, and you kind of go put that history back into yourself, she had some mountains to climb,
Oh, yeah.
but she did become good.
Well, the other one that had some interesting history was Truman. He lived with his mother-in-law and she basically hated him.
Don't all mother-in-laws say?
Same difference.
She always thought Bess had married beneath her, and that included after Harry became president of the United States. She still wasn't impressed with Harry Truman when he was the commander-in-chief. She still thought Bess could have done better.
That house in Independence was her house.
Yeah. I was there. That was sort of an interesting house. It had 13 doors, and Truman was a little bit on the cheap side. They said when he died, they went in the basement. He saved all the peanut butter and jelly jars, washed them.
Labels.
Could have made Molotov
In
cocktails.
Florida, and you could see where he tacked it down, so he wouldn't have to replace it.
I got a good Harry Truman story. I heard from some good sources of course, guys who were on the job many years before. Well, Tom and I come in like 67, 68 on the job, and we left 34 years later, 35 years later, what it was. But so you figure how many years before, these guys had come on. And one guy who is now like working inside, finishing out his years, he was working in a review office, which is where all the reports are reviewed and filed. And he had been a two-wheel motorcycle guy years before. And our own commander, Robert Harness, was a sergeant and not a lieutenant on the head. He was the equivalent in the black community of what Frank Pape was on the police department. You know Frank, of course.
Oh,
right?
very well. Very well.
He had the robbery detail. They were dealing with the lowest forms of life that you could possibly dream and they, in their own communities. Well, anyway, they had a escort to Harry, taking the back to Midway at the time, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't even know. Maybe it was even still Chicago Municipal Airport.
No, I think it
Might have been. But anyway, so they get him out to the plane, and he gets off, and he thank you, man, very good. And this one particular individual, whose name will remain unsaid, says to him, "What's the matter, Mr. President? Didn't you like the escort?" And Truman looked around. He said, "Wait here." He brings one of the Secret Service men back in the plane with him and came out and gave all the guys $100.
Wow.
So imagine that.
Yeah.
President of the United
That's a lot
States.
of money those days, yeah.
Yeah.
Weeks
Didn't work.
pay.
I mean, I got some good sources, a couple of different sources on that one. Did
And
you hear that one, Tom?
Obama's credit card is no good.
Yeah, well, Michelle paid for it.
There's a movie that Bob Hope made with Rhonda Fleming, I think, called Alias Jesse James.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in the movie where
Yeah.
they're at a big party at Jesse James.
In the 1870s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it would have to be the 1890s
okay, around
for
there.
it to work. For it to work.
Yeah.
And there's this little kid with glasses playing the piano, and this is in Missouri.
Oh.
And Bob Hope and Rhonda Fleming go over there and say, "You're pretty good, kid. What's your name?" And he says, "Harry Truman."
Wasn't Wendell Corey Jesse James
Yeah,
in that one?
right.
See?
Yeah, Wendell
I remember
Corey.
seeing that at the Ogden, I think it was, or at the highway. One of those two.
Yeah, Truman had a good sense of humor, though, because Bob Hope and he got along. Because Bob Hope, I think, got along with all the
Lauren
presidents.
Bacall sat on the piano and played
yeah.
Missouri Walls. Yeah.
That almost broke up Harry Truman's marriage. That Lauren Bacall
I think Bess had a few words about
perched
that.
herself on the piano, and Bess had an absolute hemorrhage when this picture appeared on the front page of every newspaper.
She was showing a lot of leg.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Who, Harry or
Lauren Bacall.
Betty, they call
You
her.
see if you see the picture, you can see Harry Truman knows he shouldn't be there, but there's nothing that he can do about it. Because he sat down to play the piano, and some press agent tells Lauren Bacall, "Go sit on the piano, Betty." And they get the picture of it, which is, like I say, front page, coast to coast. And Bess was not very understanding about that sort of thing.
How about how did Bogey react?
I don't know if Bogey
that's
cared. I don't think Bogey cared one way.
Now,
It's a good
by the way, for all of you out
it's
there,
a good thing. It's a good thing Bess wasn't married to Bill Clinton. If she got upset about somebody sitting on a piano,
no, in Oregon would be more like
oh my
it. would-
God,
In Oregon would be more in the order
there
there.
would have been gunplay.
Anyway, did you hear that one?
I still think Hillary and Bill Clinton truly are separate life
Yeah.
couple. I don't think
Comparable
she
maybe to the
ever-
Roosevelts?
Yeah, same
okay.
idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it was
And
like that. Because I
didn't
think
come
it's just
out
a
of
marriage of convenience.
Yeah, I
Where,
mean, it's,
Interesting.
Where,
Yeah, but there's not a lot to that.
Franklin
Yeah.
did need some help. He was wheelchair bound for the most part, and I think Eleanor ran the country for a long time there. At least a lot of people claim that.
Eleanor? No.
Sounds like
no, you're thinking of Woodrow-
Wilson's
you're thinking of
second
Woodrow
wife in
Wilson.
World War One.
Nobody ever said no. FDR was in command right to the day he died.
they-
You're thinking of Woodrow Wilson when he
you're
suffered
right.
a stroke.
I don't know, but somebody claimed that Eleanor was doing a lot of behind the scenes
It
work.
was a time
Not
when
in
she
politics.
started
She was involved in
partying
things, but
from,
she wasn't making
being
the decisions the
told
way
what
Mrs.
she-
Wilson
Well,
was.
then, I got wrong information.
makes
She was
Wills
out
and that,
in the
yeah.
field and
Yeah,
visiting
'cause
mines.
she was
and
always downed, and she separated.
she was super
and went
energetic in
away,
that area,
yeah.
am I right?
But
She was super energetic in that area.
I think,
Well,
though, you're
I mean,
right
she-
about
she was
Clinton. I think
good
it's
at
just
what
a
she did.
marriage
She
of
never
convenience
was
at this
allowed
point.
to be good. See?
Eleanor-
And all of a sudden, she took off.
Eleanor, I think it's shown in maybe it's in the film Eleanor and Franklin where she was out. She visited the troops, which FDR
yeah.
because of his infirmity
Very
couldn't
much
be
so.
going out and visiting the troops as much as he would have liked to. But she told a story in front of a bunch of GIs about how the GI was out on the point, and to find out where the Japanese guy was, he says, "To hell with Hirohito," and the Japanese soldier says, "To hell with Roosevelt." So when the GI comes back to report to his officer, the captain says, "Well, did you kill him?" He says, "No." He says, "Why not?" He says, "How could I shoot a fellow Republican?"
Yeah,
There's a lot of stories about that, and the Masons in the Revolutionary War, because the Masons were on both sides, and one guy got his life spared
My
because
buddy, yeah.
the guy who captured him was a Mason, so consequently they're fellow Masons, and this type of story, so it goes on, and then there's a lot of stories that go on with it. How true some were, I don't know, but
I just had a thought about the
Camaraderie
defeat
is-
of Japan, maybe going back a little bit. I think most of us agree that Truman's use of the A-bomb was wise to avoid a lot of casualties, but did some in the military argue, just blockade those Japanese. They have no more air force, just surround them, no food coming in, we'll starve them out. I bet that was a big plan of their thinking.
That was the Navy's approach.
Okay.
You have to remember that in World War II, we had not unified the services. There was no Department of Defense. You had a Navy department that ran the Navy and the Marine Corps. You had a War Department that was in charge of the Army and the Army Air Force, which was the Air Force in World War II. And there was the rivalry, and it persisted this very day, and to some extent it's even beneficial having that friendly rivalry. But the Navy wanted to blockade the Japanese home island, shell them with the 16-inch guns of the Iowa-class battleships, and hit them with carrier air. That was their way to starve them into submission. The trouble is that no one knows how long that would have taken.
years maybe.
The other problem is that the Russians, once the Germans were out of the war, the Russians then declare war on Japan, and they had no concern about how many hundreds of thousands or millions of men.
Right.
They would have invaded Japan whether we did or not. And
That's
you
a good
might
point. That's a good
you
point.
might have then wound up with the Russians sending
Occupied.
tens of divisions into Japan and ultimately. So,
Yeah, they-
so there's a lot of ways
I don't
that
know
could
if that
come
was
off
true or
badly.
not, because the Russians didn't really have the wherewithal to send troops there.
Well, they were fighting the Japs in the undeclared war before World War II started out there.
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah.
had a running
The
battle
Japanese, I'm
along,
sorry.
because
The
the
Japs.
Japanese controlled Manchuria in China, which bordered
Right.
the Soviet
they had
Union.
the Sino war, and what was it, with Japan, I think it was, or
They signed a non-aggression pact with
So,
yeah,
uh,
but they went around all of. They took a tour around everything. By the time the Navy got to the war, they were so tired out that they were defeated.
What did Stalin? They declared war with about 10 days to go before the end
Yeah, the
of
war
it.
was over.
very-
Yeah, they declared war. And
Thank
then,
you, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the question
after we had dropped the first
After the
atomic
year.
bomb.
Yeah.
We're about to get to a break here again. I do.
Okay,
Before
well,
we get there, I just want to say one little thing before we go to this break. Next half hour, we're going to have music of the service, all the service branches, and that's our way of reminding everyone that you just cannot lay down your arms in this world and hope for peace, because there is an old German proverb that says, if you want peace, prepare for war.
Yep.
And one more thing before we turn over to our announcer, Rich Lang. Does anyone know why the outfit, organized crime, killed Albert Einstein? Because he knew too much.
I'm going to write that down.
Once again, Jack Rowling.
I was waiting.
It's now really a time for another brief intermission. You've been listening to the Chicago Historians.
Did I actually say I was a friend of?
Hey friends, do you need an awning over your front, side, or back door? Or your windows? How about a canopy for your carport? Or a patio cover over your patio so you can enjoy being outside in case of rain? All you have to do is call Awnings and More, and Raphael Bogus will drive over, measure up whatever you need, and go from there. You can call Awnings and More at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. So if you need awnings for your windows or doors, call Raphael Bogus at Awnings and More at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Now, Raphael also installs hand railings for your front, side, or back steps. You must be safe when you go up and down the steps, especially in bad weather. So for awnings or handrails, call Raphael Bogus at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Again, Awnings and More for awnings and handrails, call Raphael Bogus at 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447.
to our historians.
Well, we promised you, gang, and we delivered. There's all the service songs, and maybe some people might think this is being a little corny, but thank you to everybody who served. We certainly wouldn't enjoy the freedoms we still are enjoying, even to a diminished degree lately, if it wasn't for them, because as we know, this is far from a perfect world, and there are people out there who would just as soon see every American with their throat cut as even the American period.
ISIS?
Huh?
I tell you what, Jack, I just came off of 3 days of taking the wounded warriors around. One guy had both legs and an arm blown off. Young kid from Annapolis. Another guy, a couple other guys had the metal prosthesis. They lost their legs, and it was. I mean, I'm tired. That's an 80-year-old fart can't keep
that?
up even with these guys.
Who's that?
But
You're 80 years
it
old?
was a pleasure and an honor to be with these guys and see what they went through and show them a good time.
Now, just now, I'm sure you're more familiar than I am with it really in the background. But for anybody who doesn't know, just what is the Wounded Warrior Project?
They are guys from Vietnam, the older guys, and they kind of run things. But most of them are all from Afghanistan and Iraq, and some of them even here in the States.
Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Yeah. And it was I don't think, I wasn't running it. The guy that runs it is a fellow by the name of John O'Leary from Annapolis, and he runs this one club, I guess they call it, and he don't pay for anything. I mean, everything is given. United Airlines flew them all there. In fact, I was sitting next to the pilot that fixed that up. Their Crown Plaza they stayed at in Rosemont. Nothing. We went out to eat. Nothing. We had tickets to the Hawks game. Nothing. And thank you to the people at Murphy's Bleachers. We spent the whole day there yesterday and watched the Bears game. And
Now that Wounded Warriors, this is a private organization, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
They send mail around periodically for donations.
Not periodically. They send it around regularly.
Okay.
And they're looking at, and they have other stuff out there, that they sell. They had blankets or some such thing. The security guys from Wrigley Field came over and donated stuff to them, and it was really, really, really heartwarming to see this. You listen to all this BS from some other people that are, oh yeah, we're loyal and we're patriotic and that. Not until you see something like this.
I think the biggest problem with some of these Wounded Warrior type organizations like DAV, and you're getting so many solicitations after a while, you don't know who to give to because of the fact that are they real or are they bogus?
Well, you've always got the scam artists out there. You always got the scammers.
That's where the problem
when my kid got killed, I told my daughter and daughter-in-law, don't be answering the phone. Make sure that I'm here, because all the scammers were they had all kinds of different things that they wanted to do.
Some boiler room operation somewhere, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you're still a millionaire, right? From your deceased uncle from Nigeria.
Oh, all the time. I can't believe all the money I got, from Europe, from I mean, I could
there's
probably
somebody out
buy
there.
the city.
And you only had to send them $10,000 in order to get the million.
Please help me. I need help.
They will be. I'll be so glad when this election is over.
Well, talk about scam
I mean,
artists.
it's almost, and I don't mean it. I'm not saying it, but it's like I don't care who gets elected just so it gets over. Yes, I do care who gets elected. But I'll be glad when it's over with too.
Well, what irritates the hell out of me, and I'll blame Quinn for it because I don't know who else to blame. They were supposed to build a veterans nursing home over there on Oak Park Avenue and Forest Reserve Drive. They came out with a dedication 6 years ago. They had a groundbreaking ceremony a couple weeks ago, which I didn't hear about until I got in the newspaper. And according to what I see on the internet, they're breaking ground right now and digging for the foundations. I don't even see a shovel out there, let alone any piece of heavy equipment.
Maybe it wasn't a shovel-ready project.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. But
I like that shovel-ready stuff. Yeah.
Shoveling a lot of something.
I like the fellow that said that his golden retriever was responsible for more shovel-ready projects than the president's administration was.
Well, this
Who
was
said that?
When all that talk was, there was some congressman or senator who made that remark when they were all this talk about the shovel-ready projects that we're going to be implementing.
I remember when I was in consulting business, used to call it, they call it turnkey operation for corporation. We used to call them turkey operations for the obvious reason, because of the fact that they're never ready.
A turnkey. You know what a turnkey is, right?
Yeah, that's
the jailer, the jail keeper, the jail. Turnkey.
But,
I was in training. What's a turnkey? They're calling it.
But you know, when they first started out, it was supposed to be $70 million, $65 million for 200 bed with 50 dementia beds available. Now it's $70.5 million, and they were supposed to start digging last week. I go by there almost every day.
You've been around for a long time. When they come up with that first figure, you double it.
Yeah, I realize that, but the fact is, the start date keeps on getting pushed back year after year, and the dates. I think I got the 7th time they said they're going to start digging, and I'm still waiting for the first shovel to dig.
Because People's Gas has confiscated all the heavy equipment on the northwest side of Chicago. Every time you drive down the street, that's all you see.
Yeah, they got enough out
People's
there.
Gas.
I was going down to. We went out to Carpentersville. And there's one place over there that had more heavy equipment lined up along the road there. You shake a stick at it. It was all idle. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
Oh, yeah.
You know. Yeah. But the fact is, you know, it just irritates the hell out of me when all these promises politicians make.
And you don't get
no
proper
way,
notice at the...
that's all they do is promise. And I just wonder if Rauner is going to be in the same category or not, because at this point...
Well,
give him a chance.
Yeah, the problem is Vatican runs the state.
Well, a lot of people were saying, he says he won't take a salary or nothing. I said, well, we had a guy named Morris B. Sachs here years ago. He was started out a door-to-door salesman, by the way, and he was later on, 7 or 8 stores around town, first-class clothing places, and he was a philanthropist, and he
television
served
star
as,
too.
Yeah, Morris B. Sachs amateur and radio, and anyway, he served as a city treasurer for $1 a year. Bloomberg in New York didn't take any.
You're right.
Any
Well, they had the money. They didn't have to.
No, but I'm saying, even so, they do. They will
But
do
they do
that.
have to take at least
$1, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a paid position, so they got to take at least $1.
It's a liability
Legally.
thing.
That's what the city of Chicago paid for O'Hare, $1.
Yeah,
Shit, I would have given him 10 even. Would you?
You didn't know. I would have offered him 20.
I wasn't born yet.
Well, that's what they sold the Skyway for, too.
Oh, the Skyway.
The Fire Insurance Patrol, when they disbanded, they gave the city a contract. It was a written contract for, I believe it was, John, maybe for $10 or some such thing. They would have gotten 4 firehouses, all the equipment, all the everything that came with it, and they refused.
Yeah.
They refused.
That's nothing new.
Well, that'd be driving a shrewd deal.
Oh yeah, really shrewd
Well,
deal.
the other promise that they made when they built the old Chicago Library, now called the Cultural Center, was the DAR room.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be maintained forever, and guess what? They don't even know what the word means anymore over there.
I haven't been in that building in ages.
It's still really nice, but the fact is the artifacts from the DAR, nobody knows where they're at.
So that room with the
GAR, Grand Army of the
Republic.
Daughters of the American Revolution, right?
DAR was the Daughters of the American, but he's referring to the GAR, which was the Grand Army of the Republic in the aftermath of the Civil War.
So nobody knows where all that stuff is stored.
Somebody asked, and they said that one of the museums took it or something like that, but nobody was sure what happened to it. And
Oh, well, wait a minute. Do you have that at your museum, Bill? You
No,
have that at your
we
museum, do you?
don't. No,
I
we
thought you
don't.
wanna talk
We
to
have
Laura?
the statue of Christopher Columbus.
That's yours.
That every Italian organization would come and pick up in a second, but they ain't getting it.
We got one more thing we didn't really touch on today. We had recent proposals of a privatized volunteer army who would do a lot of this dirty work in the Middle East, and supposedly a lot of old veterans would just love to get into something like this. Anyone?
Oh,
have
I
any
would.
opinions
About
on
something
that?
like the French Foreign Legion? Is that what they're
that
talking
would be
about? Or
I don't know.
there wasn't very many Frenchmen.
I haven't heard. Well, it's
Well, I
under
mean,
the,
but
yeah,
people
it's
really
under
want
the
to,
auspices of the French.
Obviously, it'd make it worth their while.
Yeah, but I've seen some of the videos that they claim ISIS did. You look at, they're all Muslims lined up. They go right behind us, just blow their heads off.
Yeah,
You know, and then they keep on shooting at them,
yeah.
even though they're dead. And you know, they're
They're
nasty bunch of
savages.
people.
No, they're just savages.
You know
People
what?
said animals.
That's been
Animals don't
going
behave
on
that
for
badly, do they?
Hundreds of years, and you know,
Yeah, it's just more prolific now.
Well, that's like when people call politicians whores. I say, don't ever say that in front of me, because calling a politician a whore is an insult to every whore that I've ever met in my life.
Ronald Reagan used to say that he said many people refer to politics as the second oldest profession in the world, and I must tell you it has many resemblances to the first.
You know, while we're getting close to the end here, there was a quote, I can't remember who said it, and I can't remember the entirety of it, but I'm just going through my mind trying to remember snippets of it, and it was giving thanks to members of our military and of almost all the freedoms that we have. And a few of the lines that I can remember is if you are
I know
are,
old age
okay,
catches up
yeah,
to you.
do you know it?
I think I know what you're referring
Yeah,
to.
go ahead, Jen.
It isn't the newspaper man
Right, that's
who
it.
gives us freedom of the press.
That's it.
It's the soldier.
right.
Yeah.
It isn't the clergyman who gives us freedom of religion. It's the soldier.
Right.
It isn't the street corner orator who gives us freedom of speech. It's the soldier. It isn't the lawyer who gives us the right to a fair trial. It's the soldier. It isn't the politician who gives us a free government. It's the soldier.
That's it.
There's no such thing as a free government, but that's
You know, who
besides
said
the
that,
point.
John? But
It's there was a I know it's at least one convention. I remember there was I think it was a Democratic senator who was endorsing Bush, and he was speaking at the Republican convention, and he read that out. But it's older than that. It goes back before
You
that. I'm not
see
sure
that
where the
on
actual
the
origin.
internet a lot.
the soldier.
They keep repeating that.
It's
The
a great,
internet-
it's
the
a great
internet-
concept.
Right.
The internet is great, except you got to be careful what you.
You can
Pick up on
There's
it.
bad information out there, of course.
Yeah, a lot of it, and there's
Yeah.
no such thing as the internet being truthful. You know, it may be truthful in many cases, but be wary.
Well, I'm just talking about this. We
Yeah, I know.
that this is,
Yeah.
you know,
You can take that to the bank.
yeah.
What?
Or that quote. I already deposit something like that, don't you?
Yeah, but I still like Reagan was. He was out there at Berlin Wall. Mr. Khrushchev, tear down this wall.
Yeah.
But I got a piece of rock from the Berlin Wall at home.
I know when all that business happened with the breakup of the Soviets and all this tensions and everything, there were certain people here locally, and I say locally, I mean in the U.S., who were like giving all the credit to Gorbachev. And someone said, and this, I don't know who it was, said, the only difference between Gorbachev and these other Soviet leaders is he's still living.
Yeah.
Meaning Stalin, Lenin, Khrushchev.
You're talking about the wall and that. Yesterday we took these wounded warriors to Engine 78 at Wrigley Field, which is right across the street, and that Waveland is all shut down.
Yeah.
And then we went down to the Murphy's bleachers, and I have never seen so many people, even from their cars, taking pictures, because this thing is torn down and the ivy is gone, and you know that whole bleacher section is gone now in Waveland and that. and there was one little kid there, and he says, "Oh, it's a mess."
Yeah, it's on the
I didn't
internet.
realize
First
it
start of the
actually
renovation
torn
of Wrigley
things
Field.
Yeah,
They
and
got it on the
you
internet,
got to
too.
go there and you got to see it. You know,
It was
and see what's going on.
It was a mess
There was-
before the bulldozers came in,
Yeah.
but continue.
Yeah.
What's going to be? I mean,
But they-
what's going to be left if they're tearing down?
Well,
the-
I wonder.
Enlarge
They're
it.
tearing all of that down, making it safer. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, they want
I
more
just wonder
parking.
what the hell is going to happen when the court system gets a hold of the these people suing the people up that own these rooftop things. But anyway, let me finish with what I
Go
was
ahead,
going
yeah.
to say.
Why don't you finish?
Is
We
that there
digress.
was a little kid there, and the little kid was around, and the father was holding the kid up and taking his picture and that, and I got a couple of guys, and I said, "Here, go take him up there and take the kid on the other side. They got a big fence there and that, and we got the kid over on the other side of the fence." And then, of course, everybody is saying, "Get me a brick, get me a brick, get me a brick, get me a brick." And the little kid is over there on the pile, you know, bringing all of these souvenirs to all of the adults that can't crawl up on the fence. But it's something to see. It really is.
Yeah, no, the,
I mean, they're in helicopters taking pictures,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
planes. My God,
Yeah,
it's unreal.
they did a lot of the same thing with when they tore down Comiskey Field, the original one.
Comiskey Field.
Comiskey Park.
Comiskey.
Who do you think of, the president? Kaminsky Field, he said.
Yeah, Kaminsky.
I had the last fire there.
They burned the place down.
Had the last fire at Comiskey. Yeah.
But
I
they-
have
yeah,
I
they-
have fond memories of being at Wrigley Field with my uncle, who is now gone, and sitting in the grandstand area while my other uncle, his older brother, was in. He was always a Bleacher fan. And while the game is going on, my other uncle is not watching the game. He's hanging on the chain link fence, looking over down on whatever. I don't know the geography there. If that was Waveland Avenue, whatever he was looking onto. So when the game is over, and we get together because we all came in the same car, but my other uncle was there in the bleachers. My first uncle, my Uncle Fred, says, "What were you looking at?" Why weren't you watching the game? He saw there were two guys in a fight down on the street.
Yeah.
There was a fist fight going on, which was more interesting than what was going on.
I never knew where we were sitting when I was a kid. My dad took me there because we always went in gate 9 and he flashed the badge, and that's where we got in. But we always ended up sitting in a box somewhere. He knew exactly where to go. And this guy yesterday, the security guy, I don't know where he's from. I forgot to ask him. I think he was from Chicago, working security. And he knew what we were doing with these guys and that. He came up to me later on and he says, "Listen, you come over and see us anytime." He says, "It's the Wrigley Field," he says, "and you guys are the best, blah, blah, blah." So until they start winning, I won't be there.
I got a couple of stories here, short
Let
ones.
me finish one
For
first.
equal, no. Go ahead.
Anyways, they always, give credit to the loss of the Berlin Wall to the Pope, and I said, "Oh yeah, Reagan had nothing to do with it."
Yeah.
But it had
There's
to
a
be
third person in there, and that's the Iron Lady, Margaret
Yeah.
Thatcher.
Helmut Schmidt. And
Well,
is it
they
Helmut
all
Schmidt?
had to
Helmut?
do it.
Reagan, Thatcher, and the Pope.
Yeah.
What about
blame.
Lech Walesa? Had not doing it.
He was
They
behind
all
the wall.
contributed to it, but I mean, I think the lion's share of the credit goes to Reagan, Thatcher, and the Pope.
I do too. And they have to say he wasn't a statesman. Well, I don't know about that. Anyway, my little Comiskey stories are Tom McKenna, our good friend here, and we were like freshmen in high school. Twice a year,
Is he the guy that doesn't
he disowns me.
say that? Yes.
He's
Close
you don't
personal-
blame him.
He's a close personal friend of
You
his.
can see he's very wise. Anyway,
I don't know if I admitted how.
anyway, we
I'm reserving comment until I hear
our
the
scout
story.
organization,
I don't know what story it is, so
our scout
I'll
organization.
elaborate.
Well, the statute of limitations is run on this one a long time. Has a long time. Our scouts would go down we'd see. It was maybe May or maybe even April, but we'd see a day game on Saturday. It would either be the Washington Senators or Kansas City Athletics at the time, which were the two on the bottom. So we were up there. You, Tom, myself, Mike Tynan, I think Ray Nels were the four of us. We're sitting in left field upper deck, terrible seats, but we didn't mind it. and some Coca-Cola vendor shortchanged us, so we were plotting on how to push him over the side. Now, I guess I'm glad we didn't. I can see how your mind maybe isn't totally developed when you're a teen like that. So, first place, it wasn't exactly the. Of course, in our mind, I suppose it was a fitting punishment.
No, that wasn't me.
No, another one. My cousin Jack, and we know my cousin Jack, right? He's a retired airline pilot now, but a lot of people think we're brothers, even twins. But that's another story.
Guy.
That's another story. But you have to meet him one day. We'll have to do airlines one day, okay? Anyway, he used to go when they were young punks. I don't know how old. Maybe they were about 21 or 20. He'd go in first in the park. He'd have a jacket on. He'd go up, turn in one of the windows. He had a rope wrapped around his waist. He'd lower the rope. They'd bring a case of beer upstairs himself. So,
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, that's right. We didn't think of that one. That's better than pushing the guy over the side, isn't it?
Right.
Probably had to give the cop a few beers himself. Anyway, where are we? Are we almost there?
We're just about
Guys,
there.
I think we've had a great show. We've all enjoyed this more than usual. Am I right?
Absolutely.
It's been a tremendous day. And
One of these days we'll talk about history of Chicago.
well, no, that was supposed to. Well, this all ties in. We're Chicago
Everything
historians.
ties in.
It all ties in. Chicago played a big role in the war, wouldn't you say?
Oh, considerable. Considering the amount we did, there's very few remnants.
First nuclear
So-
chain reaction.
Well,
was
we've had
under
all of the
Stag
Nike
Field.
sites, and we've had
They're all gone.
still got armories around.
Sure.
Not too many.
Not too. I'm just saying we had all of these during the war effort.
Yeah.
We had the Great Lakes right up here.
yeah.
But
Our aircraft carrier pilots trained out here.
Yes,
39th
they did.
Street. A
Yeah.
lot of the
George
quartermaster
Bush.
buildings are still there.
That's
Yeah.
that's
And
right,
that went for about a mile.
Huge.
Those
it
huge
was
buildings.
yeah, that was Ford Motor Plant. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that Tucker got, right?
Yep.
Tucker. It was a great movie.
Chicago had.
Preston,
But that's another
there
story.
were a lot of things happening. There
So-
during the
Tucker
war.
was a great car, except that he overshot his.
We're about to wrap up. He was out. He outbid himself or something there.
I don't know what he did, but he
Yeah.
ended up with fraud. And,
Yeah. Well, he made waves.
yeah,
He must have made waves.
He
before.
made a great car for a short time there, very short.
Yeah. Anyway,
I
on
can
behalf
remember-
of
Oh, go ahead. I
No,
was
go ahead,
just
say.
about. Well, I remember my mother, my grandmother during the war. They were with the Red Cross, making bandages and all kinds of stuff, and all the civil defense guys with the helmet and showing you what to do in case we got bombed. And yeah, that was quite an era, quite a time.
Everybody
I
taught
can't remember it. Can you, John?
No, it's before my
Tom?
all the kids how to duck underneath your desk
Yeah.
in case the place blows up.
That's the 50s. Yeah, that's the 50s.
Yeah.
Well,
You got to
I
lean
was
over
there.
and So,
I started school in the 40s.
on behalf of Jeanette Frontier, Al Opitz, Tom McKenna, Rich Lang, John Kushelko, Bill Kugelman.
Kate,
What's your puppy's name?
Kate.
Kate.
Hi, Kate.
The little pup.
She's the only one that makes any sense.
Our
around
boss,
here.
chief
They
engineer,
made the most productive
and,
contribution.
chief engineer
She kept
John
quiet.
Kushelko, and myself, Jack Ryan, reminding you that history is much more than a book you keep on the shelf.
We wish to thank Kevin of Jack FM, WRHS 89.7 FM, for broadcasting our shows over the Ridgewood Radio Network. Recordings of previous Meet the Chicago Historians programs are available for your listening pleasure via the internet at www.windycityhometown.com. And a thank you to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, John Sakanda. On behalf of everyone associated with our Historians program, thank you for listening. And stay tuned for our November program. And let me be the first to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. This is your announcer, Rich Lang. So long until next time.
Halloween's coming up first.
Oh, that's not a good holiday.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her
You have been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, October the 20th, the year 2014. This broadcast was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, edited by Stephen Lehman. Our audio engineer is James Rohde, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Shikanda. This program was pre-recorded. Until next time, please be safe, and thanks for listening.